Hey, Andrew, man, I need your help.
What do you need my help with?
Well, I'm on OrbitDVD.com, and I am trying to figure out what to buy, and there is so much to choose from. Where do I start, man?
Well, you can start in a couple of different places. They conveniently have all of the labels laid out for you in two separate tabs, one by U.S. companies and one by import labels, and they also have employee picks, so you can get some kind of expert advice from people who actually work in the store, giving you recommendations.
Well, I like that. That's that video store touch that Orbit DVD has, and the reason I'm in such a panic is because right now there is this coupon code that us from Chasing Labels and Over DVD are bringing to you, which is a 15% off coupon code, and it is a one-time only use. You can only use it one time, so please choose wisely.
Yes, and you can also stack it upon their great deal where you get any 3 items and you get free shipping, so you can add that code on top of that for some extra savings, and the coupon code is CHASE.
Yes, so please go to OrbitDVD.com, pick up some Blu-rays, and use that coupon code CHASE at checkout. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I am your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Stephen. Doing good. We are back here once again. Is this spine number 69?
Oh, man, you had to say it, didn't you? That's gross,
yeah,
man.
I guess the jokes can come flooding in at any point.
Flooded in. 69's here. No.
Yes, so we're almost close to 100, I guess, as they say.
No, we're not. We're still many weeks away from 100, Andrew.
Many weeks. We're like half a year.
We don't do an episode a day, okay?
I know.
Yeah.
It would be insane if we did.
Yeah, we would have already quit by now. But
yeah.
But as usual, we try to find an interesting guest to bring on to talk some releases with us. And this was a last minute call. This man was awesome enough to
available.
He was available. He was awesome enough to jump in here. He had stuff going on during the day, and he popped in here, and he's gonna help us out and be a fill-in for us. And he's been on here before, so he's a returning guest. Brad Henderson from Vinegar Syndrome. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh yeah, just always running on fumes. I'm drinking coffee in the nighttime after already having drinks of coffee in the morning because I got a new baby and I'm just like always running on fumes. Yeah.
Oh.
So
that's a Folgers commercial if I ever did hear one.
Nothing comes closer to home. Or no wait, that's Stouffer's. Folgers, Stouffer's. Yeah, two different things. But Brad, thanks for coming back to talk. Of course, we're going to be talking a whole slate of Vinegar Syndrome in here.
It kind of works out because first of the month came around and everyone's paying rent, and Vinegar Syndrome's also taking our money as well.
Now you got to pay your Vinegar Syndrome rent.
Pile of stuff
every month.
Yeah.
I like
we get cursed out and then thanked at the same time.
It's the best. It's the best.
Thank you. May I have another?
So before we get into it, we will start with that Vinegar Syndrome and partner label Slate. But before we do, Brad, just how's it been going? You guys have had a great year at Vinegar Syndrome. Just talk about how you feeling about the year you guys have been having.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think personally, our slate was incredibly strong. I know that we had some, re-releases of previous things on Blu-ray, but I think with those upgrades, they're very, very good.
Yeah.
And there is, picture quality difference, a big picture quality difference. And, with some of those, we try to do as many new extras as we can. But aside from the re-releases, I just think it's been kind of strong all over with the Gialli sets and, some slasher films and action films, like kind of the VSA stuff. I'm just really overall happy. I mean, I'm happy with everything, even as a film that I maybe don't care for as much, but I appreciate that people like it. And I understand people like it. It's just we all like different things. So collectively, not everybody's a fan in the company of a certain film that we put out, but we still put forth the same effort as if we all passionately loved it versus maybe a few of us didn't really care for the movie or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do that.
That doesn't really change. Yeah, that doesn't change anything. which is always really cool that everything kind of gets the, you know, we go into it, I mean, it's a little bit different than some things like a VSU or, a VSA. But for the most part, yeah, everything's kind of it's generated the same as like looking to do almost identically, and then maybe something, like Hard Rock Zombies comes along that has a plethora of extras, and then another film maybe only has like one interview. That's not on purpose. That's just the nature of the game of how many people want to be a part of something or whatnot. So.
Yeah, I mean it's always a release by release, to figure out what you can really and I think there was a release that's actually on this schedule that where you didn't have a lot of features, but it was just because there was nobody alive to like really talk about the movie.
Oh, it was like Moon of the Wolf.
Yes, that was the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Moon of the Wolf. I mean, everybody other than the editor. I think the actress, one of the actresses, she's still around, but she's like, I think like 92.
Whew.
And I talked to her daughter, and she, was happy that we asked, but she just said she's not in a condition to do something like that. So obviously they respectfully passed. But Richard Halsey, he was great. He was the editor for the film, which is still amazing that somebody from, a movie that was 1972. I mean, you got to think that these people were probably in their 20s or 30s working on these films. So that was a long ass time ago. Yeah, Richard Halsey, and then we had a commentary with Amanda Reyes and Daniel. So that was cool. But again, like I mean that stuff's, other than maybe the other person I think I reached out to that I never got a response was I think it's Daniel Petrie is the director. His son went on to like write like Beverly Hills Cop and stuff like that. So I tried getting him to talk, but we just didn't have a response. So I mean that's like kind of the lengths that we go.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wouldn't call it a length. It's just
yeah.
next of kin. But yeah, I know just because sometimes if you're working, your father's working, your mother's working in film, it kind of gravitates towards you. Some and their history, but yeah, no, it's a solid release. It's a goofy made-for-TV werewolf movie.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna get into all that. But yeah, Brad, still, I mean, me and Andrew have, I think, confessed this to you when we talked to you last time. We hadn't at that point gotten too into Vinegar Syndrome yet. We just started kind of getting into your label, and now I mean, I know I'm a full-on fan. I don't know about Andrew. I can't speak for him, but Andrew, how do you feel about Vinegar Syndrome now? Do you still have you gotten into him?
I mean, talk about, February, the last time Brad was on here, which I think was February, we were talking before the show. I think we've all, or at least a lot of people have caught on to this wave of Vinegar Syndrome releases because it has been a monumental year ever since then. It's felt like a full year almost in terms of releases because every month, like clockwork, like
and then
there's a new group of stuff to
and then
to
when you
delve
add the
into.
partner labels on top of that keep the ever growing partner labels.
Yeah, that's insane.
It ends up being a solid 20 movies a month, roughly, and you're like, Jesus, like you got so much to pick from. And so that's where the rent situation comes in. Do you pay your rent or you get some more movies?
Well, I'm glad we actually have Brad on here because I wanted to ask him, because this was only recently that this has happened over the last, I don't know, 3 months or so. This conscious effort to have the first of the month, regardless of what day it's on, to drop the slate. Was that something that you guys just came up with all of a sudden, or was it in the works for a while? Or because it seems to work.
Honestly, I don't know. I was never part of that decision making.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
We know you were part of that.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. That's probably more or less like some of the other people, because I like there's certain things. It's always funny because even though we're a small company, there's just certain things that I don't like pay attention to or I'm part of. Just because I'm in my own little world doing what I do. It's
Right.
very we have our things that we do here,
Yeah.
obviously, like any job. I could ask questions all this. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't know. You have to email. You have to email
The marketing
about
department.
your orders, or it's just like But I mean, whatever we've done and created, it seems to really work and catch on, and it's kind of like an event, like a little mini event for people. Like wait for that, sit at their computer and hit refresh. Do live streams during that time to see it live when the announcements happen. That's really cool.
I mean, it's like it's like the whole thing of the teaser for the teaser trailer that movies do these days. You guys advertise for the event of you're about to drop the partner labels and you're about to drop the Vinegar Syndrome slate for like the first of the month. Like, the fact that you're advertising it, you're also perpetuating that event, which is great. It's fun. It's fun.
And that's what I love. I mean, random announcements are cool from certain companies too, but I really do kind of like this on this day, or even if they say, hey, we're going to announce stuff on this day, it's pretty cool to like wait and kind of be, in suspense of what's going to, finally hit Blu-ray or hit UHD or whatever it may be. But yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, it's kind of an honor to have people that dedicate, a day or hours to a channel on their YouTube page or whatever it is. To talk. I mean, even if it's like tweeting what we've done, or doing an Instagram post of like our new releases. Yeah, it's a big it's a big deal because it helps us. It's like it's always funny because we don't really have like a newsletter. I mean, we do have a newsletter, but we don't we have like a certain we just unleash things online.
Yeah.
We don't have like commercials or web advertisements or promotional stuff. People just kind of come accustomed to how we drop the titles in kind of hints and newsletters. I mean, we have like a newsletter, I guess, occasionally. I don't think we have one monthly.
Is it
monthly?
Yeah, it's like you get one if there. I mean, I know that when you have your sale,
you get one during before sales.
Yeah,
and,
sale you get one.
Sales.
Yeah,
sale you get one.
Like for the next few weeks, you probably will because we're leading up to the Black Friday stuff. So that makes sense. But it's really cool that it's like the fans in a way are kind of like the PR.
Exactly.
People.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's word of mouth.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's word of mouth, and I think there is a large dedicated fan base, I would say, to Vinegar Syndrome, at least that we've noticed since we started doing this, and we've kind of become part of that as well. And people do get very hyped and very excited about these releases, not only from Vinegar Syndrome directly, but also the partner label releases. I'll say this, the partner label releases, the fervor around them, and just the amount of people just buying right away has become
it's getting crazy,
kind of wild.
And
things are selling out pre-order wise, and I've never seen that happen before with a lot of these labels.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing is that some of these labels I think don't get as much love as other ones, but it's just waiting to see which title it's going to be, because. And this is what I was going to, because initially we were going to have Canadian International Picture guys on here, and I wanted to talk to them about. I feel like when that Buster Keaton Rise Again came out, that was the release that now every release since, their stuff's selling out quick, because it's like there's that one release that one of these labels puts out, and then suddenly everybody's buying all the rest of them, because now it's become like they've noticed, and then now they're like, okay, now I have to get all that stuff because there's a hidden gem here, and now I think everything else is going to be worth checking out.
Sometimes it takes a label to get a couple legs, because sometimes, like I said, it's a lot of this stuff is very curated to what they want to do. I mean, Canadian International Pictures, I mean, obviously there's a Canadian aspect to that of the films that they release, but I think once the kind of the feet are grounded, people go back and purchase, the past releases because they want to, the spine numbers line up and whatnot. But it's like that one release sometimes that takes off. And then the label gets recognized, which is really cool. And it could be anything. It's very hard to predict.
It is.
I
got a prediction for today's, but when we get to it, I'll bring it up.
I'm actually curious. I will say, because some of the releases that we're going to be talking about here are already selling out very fast.
There's
And
one
this was announced
there's one
yesterday.
in particular. It's in that we'll get.
Oh, I know
don't
which one
want
he's talking
Yeah, I
about,
know
'cause it's
you
already
know what it
pre-
is, but let's
I
wait
know.
to it. Let's go ahead and start getting into these.
Yeah,
Obviously, let's start with the Vinegar Syndrome proper stuff. And
Yes.
so, which one should we bring up first? We talked about it last week. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Roadhouse. I want to talk.
Well-
I want to talk with
Oh, okay.
Brad about Roadhouse because I'm a huge fan of Roadhouse. Brad, are you a huge fan of Roadhouse?
I'm a semi fan
Okay.
of Roadhouse. Yeah,
That I'm a little disappointed. Sorry.
I know. That's been.
Let's just move on. Let's just move on. No,
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
I admire the stunt choreography and what they pulled off with that many people and how many stunt people are involved in that film. I do think it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I would never say I was, it kind of came across the plate in order, as a possibility to do, back when. And I was like, absolutely, because I know the, the fan base behind the film, it's, even though personally I'm not someone that, absolutely loves Roadhouse. I like Roadhouse and I, have fun watching. I've seen it a few times. But yeah, no, I mean, I just knew that was going to be a scorcher.
Well, like
for
you
people.
said, you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
you can't. Not every producer at people that work at Vinegar can't just like everything. They got to look at it from the fans' perspective and be like, okay, can we sell this to people? People are going to want this. And even if you don't like it, you got to be like, well, I know they're going to like this. I mean, and Roadhouse is kind of a popular cult film, you could say at this point. Like I think people know Patrick Swayze and they know the image of the double deuce, but because they make shirts for it. I see people wearing shirts for it, even though I don't know if they know what it means.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of a culty movie at this point. So it's definitely
and I would say just from a collector's perspective, I think it sent shockwaves through the collecting community because the movie, I believe it's making its 4K premiere. Like I said, it's Patrick Swayze, it's Roadhouse.
It was
it's
just
one of
released
his
by Shout
bigger
Factory a
movies.
couple years ago.
I think it was 2016, I believe.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last week. I think a lot of those special features being ported over, Brad would know better than I would. But it's just anytime Vinegar Syndrome kind of delves into a little bit more mainstream stuff, it does send a few shockwaves because you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. That's also the thing with Vinegar Syndrome is you don't know what you're going to get from month to month, and sometimes you get a Roadhouse, or sometimes you get something completely obscure, like something you've never heard of before. And even then, it's kind of like it excites you because that unpredictability, as a collector. And some people are going to blind buy, and some people are going to buy it fully knowing what this movie is. But that was something we covered last week, Stephen.
Well,
getting
speaking of another
Yeah.
big 4K release.
We heard about it a little while ago. I think it was a rumor that it was coming. We just didn't know when. And that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2,
Yeah.
the sequel to the infamous, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Brad, you can speak to it, I guess, directly. A completely different film than the original movie from a lot of perspective, but also directed by Tobe Hooper.
Yeah, it's better than the original.
Oh wow, hot take, guys! Which
Scorching take.
Yeah. Shout out. There is a 4K apparently coming for the original. I think from Second Sight. So we're supposed to. They're working
I
on
believe
that.
so, yeah.
So
so
but
you're
the
gonna have
better
your-
movie is coming out from Vinegar Syndrome. Talk about it, Brad.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was really excited when that came about because it was an option again. And, it was an option to do like a really cool upgrade to a movie that we all really love. And like myself, just speaking for myself, because you can't speak for everybody. Like I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is one of the greatest sequels of all time. And, I've always been on the fence. Like, I mean, I love the original. Absolutely. I think it's, it's a masterpiece, but there was something with TCM2 that did something a little different, and I gravitated to it a little bit more with its, comedy aspect, its the acting aspect, because you kind of really don't like anybody in the original movie, and you kind of really, really hate Franklin. In this one, you have so many. You have Lefty, and you have Stretch. You just have so many like cool characters, but you like the villains too, like with Chop Top and what I forget his first name, but Sadal, the was it Jim Sadal? Yeah. So like those characters and actors that come in, they just kind of elevate the movie so much, and it is kind of more of a spectacle, especially like kind of their lair at the end. I don't know. It feels like it's like the most Halloweenish movie that's not Halloween.
Yeah.
Like, it feels, it just, it also inspired a lot of filmmakers too, because it's just kind of it's a big swing.
Yeah.
For the movie too, because it took a completely different direction. And I admire that for them doing something new rather than making a sequel. Even though I love Friday the 13th, it just did the same thing over and over and over again. With Texas Chainsaw, they really took a different direction, and that's what I loved. And yeah, no, but I've always been the same way with Halloween too. I think, even though the original Halloween is a masterpiece, again, I've always gravitated towards Halloween too.
Yeah.
Especially like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween 2, they both have very, very big similarities for me to like them. The music, the body count, the scares, the atmosphere, like all of that stuff is like tenfold.
Yeah.
In these sequels, and yeah, I know Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is like, it's incredible.
Yeah, there's something to some of these, like especially in the horror genre, where people a lot of times put the originals up on the pedestal, but once you've gotten past the origin story and you can just have some fun and play with all the characters and the pieces and stuff and the atmosphere, that's where a lot of people like you like these sequels more, because you're not dealing so much with having to set up stuff. You're just trying to have fun with the world that was created. Yeah. And because I also think of like Evil Dead 2. Now, of course, that's kind of like a remake of the first one, but it does amp up the comedy more. It really, and that movie came out a year after this one. So influences there. Maybe possibly. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen this one. I mean, I love Dennis Hopper, so I went on Dennis Hopper, craziness back in the day. But yeah, I remember really thinking this was a fun movie too. And I don't know if I could say if it's better than the first one. I'll have to watch it again. But
it's so radically different, which kind of like what Brad says. If anything, to me, it should be. What a sequel should be is build on the first one or be different than the first one. A lot of horror sequels and a lot of sequels to other genre movies are kind of taking elements from the original and reworking it and giving you kind of the same thing. Whereas this movie is so completely different. Tobe Hooper is kind of just like, I'm going to give you something tonally completely different, plot-wise completely different. It's going to have connective tissue to the first movie, but it's going to kind of stand on its own.
And that's
like, you almost could watch the second film with knowing little about the first film, because there's so little connective tissue.
Yeah.
And Dennis Hopper just giving just a wild performance. Like, I don't want to spoil things for people who haven't seen it, but at the end of the movie, he's like dual wielding chainsaws. So it's like, it's kind of awesome from that perspective.
And that seemed to be a thing back in, I mean, there has been some examples of horror films recently that have tried to have had the same kind of like, thought. Like, I think of Happy Death Day 2, kind of taking the story into a very different realm, making it a lot more like science fiction-y, but thinking also of Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2 changes it up a lot,
literally.
So
totally completely different. Joe Dante took that in also complete opposite direction. I think that came out like 1990, a few years after this.
So once again, another influence. I probably
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is also interesting because it came out, I think, 12 years after the first film, and the first film was such a success. Where if you transport it to modern day, there would have been a sequel out in like 2 years after the original had come out.
Probably a year later, actually.
Yeah, maybe not even. It's just and so this is getting a 4K deluxe release with lots of special features, great artwork on
Yeah, I
it.
love the artwork.
Just the artwork in and of itself is incredible. Yeah, and
It's
just
stacked.
the list of special features
this shit is
goes down
stacked.
and down. You got to scroll down a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just a massive work, and that's coming out appropriately in October. I don't know if you guys lined it up to come out for Halloween, but that's
Nah,
gonna
they
be
weren't
a
thinking
hot
about
Halloween
that.
title.
They weren't thinking about that.
No, no.
I mean, honestly, so many things changed because of elements and whatnot of being available and what we can do. Again, I don't really know, but I thought it was cool that it was synced up for October. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, the next one, let's talk. You already kind of talked about it a little bit, so let's talk about Moon of the Wolf. Just since you've already kind of talked about it a little bit, so tell us about this movie. What's it about, and why people should pick it up?
Well, I mean, I would more or less attack the angle of, obviously made for TV movies in the 70s was a different ball game. And it wasn't, because I think there was a time kind of in the 90s and early 2000s when things were direct to video. It was kind of like, ugh, that's direct to video. That's not good. Which, I liked a lot of those films, but I understood kind of like, oh, that's just going to shove sequels get shoved to direct to video is kind of like a cash grab. And a lot of that stuff was. And sometimes like made for TV movies now, there's a lot of, like Lifetime and, Christmas movies and stuff like that that are made for television for that market, which generally are garbage or you would never watch them. But made for TV movies in the 70s, that was like an event, the movie of the week and things like that was a very, very big deal. So taking some of those films and giving them a legitimate release is kind of again, a big deal because some of these things have suffered bootlegs on DVD or, the companies just kind of, they premiered on television and then maybe came out on tape, maybe a bootleg DVD, maybe a legit DVD, but way out of print. And haven't been really taken care of as far as like a decent release. And Moon of the Wolf was another film that came up where the reason why I enjoy Moon of the Wolf is it has really good atmosphere. It's not creepy, it's not scary, it's nothing like that. But being that it was made for TV, and I think it still runs like an hour and a half, and it's not short like some made for TV movies. But the thing about made for TV movies that is great is that they don't really waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of filler with made for
pacing's
TV
good.
movies.
Yeah.
Right, and typically they are shorter. I think Moon of the Wolf still runs like maybe over 80 minutes.
75.
But it doesn't waste any time, huh?
75 minutes.
Oh, it's only set. Okay,
Yeah.
then yeah, it is a short movie. For some reason, I thought it was longer. Yeah, so again, I mean that blocks in the 2 hour time block that they did. But yeah, no, it's 75 with TV movies, so you can have something that is. Like I would probably put Moon of the Wolf in this category is that its movie's okay.
Yeah.
But being that it has good pacing, it has a decent story, decent special effects. There's not a lot of blood or nudity in these things because obviously they're made for TV. But the cool thing about made for TV movies is the pacing always works. Like editors, they always had people that you have to keep your audience captive because one, you don't want them to change the channel when the commercial pops up. That was a huge thing when they were making these films. You don't want people to tune out because they can easily just turn the channel if they're bored because they're watching on TV. They're not watching a tape or, a beta thing and they got to go up and hit eject. You have to make that audience. And I think with made for TV movies, not that those movies get a free pass, but they are very easy to watch. even if maybe the story isn't your thing. But the horror films always kind of gravitate towards a more suspenseful time. And there's countless wonderful made for TV movies. And yeah, I think Moon of the Wolf is, it's not high tier, but I think it's kind of mid tier, a decent atmosphere, like I said, driven, werewolf
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I like a good.
It's,
Yeah, I'd be interested just in seeing what the effects are like. You said the effects
yeah.
are decent.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's cheesy, but
Yeah.
the thing is, it's a solid, just a solid title,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
and that's again one of those reasons that it just kind of popped up that we were able to do, and no one really said no. We all enjoyed the film,
Yeah.
and that was a movie that I checked out because I didn't see it until probably last year or so.
Okay.
That's when I very first saw it. I was like, okay, yeah, because I mean, I catch up on a lot of made for TV stuff because some of that stuff is really hard to find.
Yeah.
I watch, I mean, shit, way too many movies a year. My letterbox is insane. Um, but yeah, I mean, I grew up on a lot of watching the kind of the reruns, or when that stuff did make it to tape, I watched it. But yeah, I know made for TV movies are always a blast, and if it's something I haven't seen, I always gravitate towards made for TV movies if I have like a time block,
Yeah.
just because I know that the pacing and typically the editing and pacing are always on point on those films,
Yeah.
and they'll keep your attention.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah,
The,
yeah. I just wanted to point out that Daniel Petrie also directed the film A Raisin in the Sun with Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee back in 1961, which is the play that famous adaptation of the play, which is available in Criterion Blu-ray if anyone is interested. I remember they showed us that in school so many times. Every time we read A Raisin in the Sun, they were like, oh, you have to watch the Sidney Poitier adaptation version. But speaking of kind of werewolves, and actually effects that I thought really held up extremely well, the Werewolf versus Vampire Woman, which I got to watch this morning or late in the evening. I don't know. Time runs just concurrently for me. But this is getting a 4K UHD release, and I have to say, I actually really find myself enjoying this movie. Talk about atmosphere. There was a fog
Oh
machine
yeah.
going at one point in this movie. I'm like, yeah, that fog machine's turned up to 11. It's just, there's vampires, there's werewolves. They seem to go together very often. And this is actually a film that I would definitely recommend people pick up if they were on the fence about it. But Brad, can you say more about this movie?
Yeah, I mean, this is the third film in the series of
It's the
oh my yeah,
Waldemar Daninsky saga.
yeah, Daninsky's Nashi's Daninsky character that played for numerous years. I think there's like over maybe 10 movies with this character. But yeah, no, you're right. Again, it's another short atmospheric horror film with really good special effects, great music. And yeah, it stands out from a lot of other Nashi werewolf films because I think just because of the making aspect to it. It has a very, maybe say, cinematic quality to it that it doesn't like, because some of these films coming in around this time, and especially in that series of films that he did, a lot of them are cheaper, made on the cheap, that sort of thing. There's a lot of effort and time that went into this one, and with what's the director's name, Leon
Kimofsky.
shit, huh?
Leon Kimofsky.
Yeah. Kamalski, his approach to filmmaking in general is, I mean, he died in the '90s, but he was one of those filmmakers that a lot of his Spanish films, he utilized his actors like the best he could. So he always got like these amazing performances out of them. And like with Werewolf versus Vampire Woman, like Gabby Fuchs is in the film. I'm trying to I didn't have any time to prepare for this
Oh,
show,
you're
so I'm
good,
drawing a
man.
No,
blank
that's
on the name.
fine. That's fine.
What's the other actress's name in the
You
film?
got Barbara Campbell,
No, 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 no.
Andre. See, Yelena, some Patty Shepard.
No, no, no.
No, but it's good. Just list off the whole IMDb.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's another performance that's outstanding.
Gabby. Yeah, let's see,
No,
Paul.
Gabby Fuchs. But I'm just probably gonna draw
Okay,
a
let's
blank.
watch the movie,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Let's watch the movie real
honestly,
quick.
yeah. All of the
But no. With the film in general, to talk people into it, is one that there's three different versions of the
yes,
film on there. And I mean, Nashi's just an icon. He took monsters seriously, and we have Lugosi, we have Vincent Price, we have all these iconic older actors, and I think Nashi's one that should belong in that conversation. You know, it's just that we had he took the idea of the monster kind of like Lugosi did, and he gave it a purpose, and I think that really shines in the where this film, because he, unlike the first film, and I think there's the second film is considered lost, but no one really knows, I think, if it was made, that it might have just been in pre-production and actually never finished. I think there's a debate on that, but this is technically, I think, his second or third film that has been released. But in this film, he takes it to a new level of making a character that is kind of like the anti-hero in a
Yeah.
way, and that you kind of cheer for and you want to see return, even though it is the monster. And again, that's what a lot of these actors did. That have all the actors that have played, the monster Frankenstein, and Dracula and the Wolfman. All these actors have taken that character and put so much heart and skill in becoming a monster, and kind of showing a side of humanity, and showing a loving side, a monster side, a sinister side, and giving it so much attitude and complexity of the characters. And I think that's what Nashi did with this one in particular, and I think that really shines in this. So I think this is probably the best werewolf film that Nashi did, as far as kind of playing the Daninsky character. But yeah, no, it's an incredibly solid. It has, it's UHD. It has three versions of the film. It has the nude version, the clothed version, but more importantly, which a very fun thing that was a fun adventure to do, was reaching out to Sergio Molina, who is Nashi's son, and who became a filmmaker as well, and kind of a more historian of his father, and making sure that his legacy is still remembered, because Nash, even though he did some you know American films, I still feel. I mean, I know that people love Paul Nash. We have Paul Nash sets and stuff like that, but he's not in that normal conversation as some of these older, like I said, Vincent Price and all these people that we talk about that have, played monsters, or these iconic, like Elvira and stuff like that. Nash along with that, and he's always put forth a lot of effort in getting, keeping his dad's name very relevant, making sure people are seeing his films, because I mean, Nash changed the industry in Spain. He became, as a filmmaker, he's a writer, he's an actor. He did so much, his own productions and whatnot. He's incredibly important. And there's a documentary on that disc that's called "The Man Who Saw Frankenstein Cry," which is a film documentary that Sergio Molina produced about his father, and they have a ton of amazing filmmakers being a part of this documentary that he made, and that documentary is on this disc, along with an interview with Sergio Molina talking about his father. But yeah, no, it's just a really incredibly solid film. And people like Hammer stuff. I think this is something that you would gravitate towards because it has that type of production value. And like I said, again, not to be very repetitive here, just the atmosphere in that film is really huge. It's so, like, sometimes with these films, especially from the 70s, like made for TV films, the atmosphere is a character itself, and really kind of brings on the charm, much kind of like how the 30s did. And this wave of films that were in the 70s like this, it was a resurgence of the style from the 30s. And I think that's why they're so important.
Yeah. That's an interesting subject, bringing up, these actors that, played a lot of monster characters, and you don't see a lot of that anymore. You don't see a lot of, obviously our movies have changed, so the types of actors have changed too. I think the closest we get to an actor that primarily plays monsters is Doug Jones. But then again, he's not really starring in the monsters are not like speaking monsters. A lot of times they're there is his character from Hellboy, but then there's his character from Shape of Water who doesn't speak. He's just kind of,
And it's not like they're playing like iconic vampires or iconic werewolves and whatnot. I'll say this, this film, now that you mentioned Hammer, it felt like a Spanish Hammer horror film. It had the similar kind of Hammer elements. It had the blood, it had the gratuitous nudity, it had the gorgeous women and stuff like that. All that stuff was kind of hallmarks for Hammer, during its time. I also want to mention, just for people listening, there are 2 Paul Naschy collections available on Blu-ray through Shout Factory, I believe, where you have quite a collection.
Is there 2 or 3?
Is there 3 now? There's a few of them out there, and I think they all have like at least 5 movies apiece. So
and they're really great sets too.
Yeah, they are really good, and they are both still in print if anybody's interested. Both came out in 2017. I remember when these actually came out. People were scooping them up at the time.
That's the cool thing, is that there is kind of that wave of people that keeps Paul Naschy alive. And it's not like, that people don't know Paul Naschy. I mean, a lot of people know who Paul Naschy is. But again, in the conversation of, Lon Chaney Jr., Boris Karloff, like I said, Bela Lugosi, and then you have that other wave of Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, all those people are super iconic. You can go to any age group, well, aside from maybe these youngins, but they know who these people are. And I think Paul Naschy is one of those people that needs to be in that normal everyday conversation of taking these characters and bringing them to life and making them more than the villains. Because a lot of times these movies, they had the villain, but it was the energy that these actors put into these villains that made 18 Dracula sequels. And the only reason why these films were so popular was because of the people that played the monsters. I don't think that Universal set out and say, oh, we're going to use this Dracula name and this is going to be a huge franchise. No, they made the movie, think it was a one-off maybe, but the success and the energy that these actors put into these, taking these seriously, and kind of shaping what we know of these monsters today, just took everything to a whole new level. And that's exactly what Naschy did, especially with this werewolf character.
Awesome. You've sold me. I picked up a few things pre-order wise, but I didn't put this one in my list, but now I might have to come back and get this one eventually.
It's definitely worth a buy for people interested. I mean, there's a couple more releases here. Do you want to get to them, Steven?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just didn't know.
Oh, no, I do it. Okay. I got you. We also have a little bit early, but a Christmas one here.
Don't open till Christmas.
Don't open till Christmas. So I guess you get this movie in the mail at the end of the month, but you can't watch it till Christmas, or this person might kill you. So tell us about Don't Open Till Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it's if people are familiar with Alan Birkinshaw, who's done like Killer's Moon and another film that we released, House of Usher. Um, Again, I feel like a fucking broken record.
Okay, let me guess. Atmosphere? No, I'm just
Not
kidding.
even-
No, I'm just kidding.
It
But
does.
the
Yeah.
cool thing about there is that there is this atmosphere that's created, but I compare it very similar, and it's a different type of atmosphere. It's a very comparable. The way the movie makes me feel is very much like Christmas Evil,
I was gonna say,
to
does
where
it have a
it
connection with
feels,
that?
yeah, it feels like a fantasy, but there's also an incredibly sleazy element to it. But then it takes on the slasher form, which Christmas Evil isn't a slasher per se, even though he does kill three, four people. I don't even
Is
think
that
he kills
it?
that many
Is that
people.
it?
Yeah,
God.
I don't even think he kills. I don't even
Uh,
think he kills that
yeah,
many
Christmas
people.
Evil is a deceptive film from its reputation, because
Yeah,
it's not a slasher, as
yeah,
Brad
because I,
says.
I I think he kills like two guys outside. Yeah, I
It's
don't know. He might only kill like
I
two.
think he
I
only like
can't remember. I've seen the
yeah.
movie like 100 times. I can't remember the kills. But
It's more
again, like the thing is like it's a more of a psych, a drama.
psychological, yeah,
Yeah, psychological
psychological
drama
drama,
of a
almost in the
breakdown.
vein. It's in the
Who?
vein of like
Yeah,
a Taxi Driver almost, in a
yeah,
more
yeah.
twisted version of that.
Yeah, Don't Open Till Christmas is nothing like that. But again, it does bring in this kind of like fantasy element. And again, like Christmas Evil has a sleaziness to it. Now there's oversleaze on Don't Open Till Christmas, which is the fun part. Made in, the you can it just takes kind of a different aspect of kind of like this Christmas like slasher element, but throws in, sex and nudity. Um, Violence picks up a little bit more in the slasher element. But yeah, it's just kind of gritty and mean, and it's fun to watch those movies. And it was, I mean, oh man, I saw Don't Open Till Christmas the first time, probably way too young. I had a big clamshell of it, and then I got the Mondo Macabro DVD when that came out years and years ago, and then it's really cool that we're doing this.
Yeah.
So it's always been, wouldn't say it was a staple for Christmas because it doesn't really get you in the spirit. Like,
The
unlike
opposite.
Christmas Evil, I think Christmas Evil totally gets you in the spirit of Christmas, and that is a staple for Christmas for me. Don't Open Till Christmas is a film that you can kind of watch any time because it doesn't full force put the element of Christmas into you, but it makes you just feel dirty, and
Yeah.
it's a decent slasher. It's kind of like the same with the Christmas slasher To All a Good Night. Kind of the same aspect is that it uses elements of Christmas but doesn't really shove them down your throat. Something like, Silent Night, Deadly Night, or anything like that. But it takes those like light Christmas elements, and I don't know. It's funny that people didn't protest over the Don't Open Till Christmas movie, but maybe they did. Maybe in the UK.
People are
Yeah.
people are so countercultural. Oh, you meant like back when it came out, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
because
meant like
the whole
nowadays.
thing with Silent Night, Deadly Night of people protesting, and then I think it was Don Rickles who was like speaking out against the film, but he ended up being like in the fifth movie.
What do you got?
That's
Irony.
like super fucking funny to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about some Christmas horror stuff later. We'll get back around to that in the partner
Yes.
labels. But
But
we got a couple more here.
We
Let's
do have a
talk
couple
about
more here.
Blood Delirium.
Yeah, Blood Delirium is fun because it's not like the thing that's so special about it. It's been unavailable for such a long time. I think this is the legitimate like actual home video release in the U.S. On because I don't even think this came out on tape over here. I don't remember it being on tape. I saw this through a bootleg years and years and years ago. But yeah, another just kind of sleazy, raw, um, bloody good time. If it put it quickly, I'm not the biggest Blood Delirium fan, but I think it's incredibly solid release, and I'm very very proud of that we actually put it out. but it's something I'll probably revisit because I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Okay.
Um, but because it's always had shitty versions, and I think the version that did come out or not didn't come out, it's one of the tapes that did surface. It was edited down, so this is like uncut in all its glory, which it's pretty rough at times, but it's a great movie.
All right.
Um,
Nice,
for, for
nice.
for fans that like kind of like sleazy Italian films, this is like right up their alley.
I was gonna say it is like an Italian film. I don't know if it's quite a giallo or something like
No,
that.
no,
No,
no, no.
not at all.
It's I don't know. It's like a maybe murder mystery type thing, which I know it's kind of the definition of giallo, but it has elements of that. But it's I think it's more or less. I don't even know how to classify the movie, to be honest with you. Um, I don't know. I think it's going to be a big hit or miss for people in a way. I think the audience that really loves it's going to love it. Other people would be like, "What the fuck is going on? This is weird."
Sometimes I
It
But
love
is,
that's
what.
the
So,
fun,
yeah,
you know.
sometimes I love a what the fuck is this?
it is
Yeah.
dealing with like it is dealing with the reincarnation of Vincent Van Gogh. So things are gonna get artsy.
Yeah, it does get weird, and there is kind of a storyline that like kind of does this
Yeah.
up and down,
Waves.
and
Yeah.
not all of it makes sense, but it's an ambitious little ambitious movie, I think.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think there's a lot of stuff lost in translation with some of these Italian films and
Hmm.
productions.
all right.
And then lastly here we have the Picorama releases, and this is interesting because these are two films by Doris Wishman,
And
and
more Doris Wishman.
yeah, I
Yes.
was that was where I was going.
Yes.
Between the two Doris Wishman volumes that have come out through one of the partner labels, was that?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, it was AGFA. I was gonna say it must have been AGFA. And then now these two films, there's so
We're
much
gonna get
Doris
all the
Wishman.
Doris Wishman we want.
I didn't know who Doris Wishman was until that first volume came out, and then I started delving into who she was as a filmmaker, and then her films that I was able to watch when we covered those volumes. And now we got some more here, so there's so much now when there was seemingly just none before a couple of months ago. At least none like available on
I'm
Blu-ray
going
and
to
stuff like that.
I'm in my 30s now, and your parents still, our parents still want to buy me Christmas gifts. I'm just going to ask them, buy me all the Doris Wishman Blu-ray. Please,
Nice.
give me the Doris
won't
Wishman
know.
on Blu-ray, please, all of
Mine
them.
as well. Those sets are really. I love the colors on them. I love I just love. I love discovering new filmmakers.
Yeah.
And in specifically filmmakers who were so counter, what the way movies were at the time. And these two films are obviously two adult films coming from Picorama. It says it right on the cover, rated XXX, a highly intimate and erotic experience. And the two films are Come With Me, My Love, and Satan Was a Lady. Two great titles.
Like it.
Yeah, they're both oddball films from Wishman, which a lot of her films are oddballs anyway. But yeah, no, she's a very important filmmaker because she kind of paved the way in a lot of ways in an exploitation type genre. Um, with her style of filmmaking was unique. Her storytelling was unique. Her choices on picking films was unique. Very transgressive at times, and yeah, she just like in a way like Roberta Finlay, she just kind of did what she wanted with kind of a like don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah.
And she just made the movies that she wanted, whether they were cheap and poorly made or not. These films, they're probably more on the cheap and poorly made part, but the fact that she was doing stuff like this and she was a woman directing pornography was a big deal because it was not the most common thing. um but yeah, no, both of these films, they're unique in their own way, because it's Wishman. But any for completist of liking Doris Wishman, these are two musts. If you like stuff like Night to Dismember and things like that, you're going to gravitate towards these, even if they do have the hardcore element. Which the hardcore element isn't the focal point of these films. It's more or less of its oddball storytelling
Mm.
and weirdness. And I don't know. It's just like along with a lot of the films that the Something Weird video put out through like the 90s, a lot of those films and a lot of films that Agfa does, that puts out, there is kind of this like just chill the fuck out and watch like some oddball cinema. And a lot of these movies are super short, and I don't know. It's just it's not like a invite people over and have like beer and pizza type movie. Well, these in particular, but I think some of Wishman's films. But it's like that Ed Wood element.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, Ed Wood, John
kind of
That
Waters.
endearing element to them, where it's not great filmmaking necessarily, but you can see the heart that's on everybody's sleeve
Oh
doing
yeah,
this.
they're
Yeah.
they're unapologetically, films by the director. Like I just mentioned, John Waters. Like his
Yeah,
work is
yeah.
unapologetically him.
I mean, yeah,
They're
well,
very much him.
that and just, I mean, I've been watching some of the Ray Dennis Steckler stuff from the Severance set, and some of that stuff's just like, I mean, funny enough, watching some of the porn, the adult films he did in that collection, I'm just like, man, these are just out there, just weird. Yeah,
And again, like filmmakers like Roberta Finlay, Steckler, Doris Wishman, they all kind of pioneered, and Ed Wood, they all pioneered this like weird shift that when John Waters came into play. I mean, he was taking a lot of that inspiration from those films and kind of making his own thing and making his own films. And I think that really pioneered a lot of independent cinema and independent filmmaking, making the movies you want to make. Maybe a little bit better with the storylines and complexity of the characters, and camera work, editing, all that became better. But there is kind of an enjoyment of the like kind of the earnest behind amateurs making these types of movies, because they wanted to do something different and unique. And there is an aspect to that where you got to turn off your brain a little bit and not kind of dissect the idea of making a film, and whether if the camera is always positioned correctly, if they're blocking shots, if the editing is on time, if the performances are good. I imagine a lot of these films, they use the one take
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
yeah.
Especially with Wishman's, like, two of my favorite Wishman films is oh my gosh, I'm just drawing Deadly Weapons and
Oh yeah, yeah,
double is it double agent
yeah. That was in the volume.
yeah, it
Well,
was
I
in
think that was in the
Volume
volume
one,
one
yeah.
set.
yeah, like with those films, no one can act, no one is
No.
there to act. And there is this huge element of just kind of let's go for it. And to me, those films are easy watches because there's an honesty behind the camera, whether they're good movies, like well made. I shouldn't say that. I said well made movies or not. I don't know. It's a very DIY aspect that can be very influential to filmmakers and also teach them. Maybe that's what you shouldn't do, but I can watch it and enjoy it.
Exactly. There's always something to get from a film. Like it's not. We try to expound that to our listeners that don't just go looking for like what people consider to be great cinema, because first of all, it's all subjective anyway. But secondly, you're missing out. You're missing out on teachable moments. You're missing out on learning more about film history by looking at the other side. And that's why that's why I've really fallen in love with Vinegar Syndrome and Severin, and I'm starting to dip my toe into Mondo Macabro and stuff like that. Like you guys are you're giving love to that side of cinema that doesn't really get the love that it deserves, because everybody takes influences from everywhere, and so, like you said, John Waters really probably looked at filmmakers like this and really
If we didn't have
built
Ed
on
Wood,
it,
we may never. If we didn't have Ed Wood, we may have never had John Waters.
Yeah, John Waters.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of his stand up that he did back in '06, This Filthy World, where he just kind of goes through like all of the movies he watched growing up that got him inspired, like Kenneth Anger films and stuff like that. And And then he also would mention like, people would see his early movies like Eat Your Makeup and Multiple Maniacs and we're like, you know, you know, did you know how to edit? And he was like, no, we didn't know how to edit. We didn't know what blocking was or anything like that. We just kind of like had a camera and just did stuff. And then like that's what came out. And that whole kind of like Brad was saying, that whole independent film movement of that 60s 70s corridor kind of invented the concept of the midnight movie or the late night movie where it
Yeah,
was just these
which
oddball
inspired a
films.
generation of
Yeah, I mean,
filmmakers.
a Rocky Horror Picture is probably one of the most notorious midnight movies that they still play nowadays. That's more of a cult hit now than anything. I mean, they made a musical on it on like Broadway and stuff, but it's just like that's like the concept of the midnight movie. So a lot of that generation, I'm kind of loving how between Vinegar Syndrome and their partner labels and some of these other boutique labels, you're seeing all of those kind of underground independent cinema of the 60s, 70s, and 80s that you really didn't get exposed to because like kind of like Brad said, a lot of these movies haven't been available, and if they've been available, it's been on bootlegs or VHS that came out 30, 40 years ago, and it's you can't really find a lot of these things now. So it's kind of nice these are getting like really, really nice releases. But speaking of, I think that's about it for
Well,
the Vinegar Syndrome proper,
before
right, Steven?
yeah, it is. But before we move on to the partner labels, I do want to
Yes.
say they do have a couple new designs from their T-shirts, and it looks like actually
yeah.
their shirt design is sold out. Maybe in
Yeah, one's already sold out.
but
so.
maybe in particular sizes it's sold out. I don't know if it's all sold out, but then they also have a jacket, a hoodie that has. I got me one of these pumpkin ones though because the
You
pumpkin
did?
design's pretty
Nice.
badass.
The one with the knife going through the pumpkin?
Yeah,
Nice.
my goal is to
Nice
get a
one.
shirt from every part,
everywhere?
every boutique label I can get. I got a good amount of them so far, but yeah, that pumpkin design's badass. I like that, so I had to get it.
Yeah, it does say sold out, which which is unfortunate for anybody who wants one. Other than Steven, who jumps on these things
I got
very
one for
early.
I got me an extra large, so I'm good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you gotta move fast. You gotta move fast on the merch because sometimes it goes faster than the movies.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
was gonna say,
yeah.
if you think the movies are limited, the merch is
It's extra limited.
limited.
But yeah, let's move on to the partner labels.
Yes, a lot of them this time around. Well, there's always a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think we got 14.
Is it 14?
Oh my
Gee, I didn't even
gosh.
count them out.
I think so. 1,
Sometimes I
2,
even
3,
forget.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right.
Nice. Where do you? I mean, I got to watch a couple of these.
Yeah.
I think right off the bat, we got to mention Fun City Edition's Cutter's Way.
Yeah.
Because this was, I think, rumored recently a little bit, but Cutter's Way is a great film that has gotten a couple of Blu-ray releases, both here and abroad. It's recently gotten a Blu-ray release from Imprint back in this year, 2022, back in April. But several years ago, it had a Blu-ray release from Twilight Time. And the only special feature on that Twilight Time release, I believe, was a commentary that did get ported over to this release, to Fun City. So you're not missing out if you never picked up that release. And yeah, Cutter's Way is a great film. I know this is a film that a lot of people are big fans of. Jeff Bridges, early role for him, John Hurd. And yeah, I really, really like this film a lot.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Oh, this is your opportunity then.
It's when we talked about it for Imprint, I was when I missed out on getting a chance to watch, and still haven't. But Fun City is one of these labels that I'm complete on, and so I don't see myself stopping. And so I'll be getting this and watching it for the first time.
Nice,
So.
nice.
But Brad, you have anything to say about Cutter's Way?
Yeah, I mean, I to kind of because I've probably never said anything about Fun City on any show. Fun City is one of my favorite partner labels because Jonathan takes a lot of these films that were iconic afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, not cult movies per se, but films that, I don't know, like staples in the video store. Where, you had, I mean, because this is directed by Ivan Passier, who did Born to Win, which is another film that, Fun City has recently done. But yeah, no, Cutter's Way is just, I don't know. It is one of those films like it's pure cinema.
Yeah.
Like, a lot like the same thing with Born to Win, but I think that's a lot of Fun Cities. Like I think at this point, if Fun City keeps doing what they're doing, like you could say kind of maybe fuck film school, which I kind of say fuck film school anyway. And just give people like the Fun City movies
Yeah, yeah.
and just say, just watch. I think you'll learn how to make a movie by watching those films in that catalog,
Yeah.
because those are the types of films that Jonathan's going after. And so I just like, there is kind of that, these are the movies that your grandparents or parents would rent at the video store while you went to the horror section. But but yeah, no, Cutter's Way is legit. I mean, it's probably one of Ridge's like maybe best for performances. But yeah, just like a really legit, just a good movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
yeah.
he's had Jonathan's had a couple big time, like, I think this one, was it called a Collar? Mullen Collar?
Morven Collar?
Morven Collar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's another one that was like a big kind of like out of nowhere, like,
we had him on as a guest. Right, I think it was right after Morven Collar had come out.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about
just getting that Lynn Ramsey
that
like
finally,
one
like that movie had
know,
not. Yeah, that movie was tough to find just on DVD. There was no Blu-ray or anything like that. A lot of the films that Fun City's putting out, they're all. I think so far, all of them have been just gem after gem after gem. Not only of the film, but I think as of a release as well. Just the quality of the release is so good.
and of course that Married to the Mob's already sold out limited wise.
Married to the Mob was another one, the Jonathan Demme film, which
Yeah.
was which was their previous release to this one. Just another great find. Not even a find because Jonathan Demme, people had known of that movie, but it hadn't. I don't think it had a release before then. It's
Just that was a tape that I always saw available when I was tape hunting. Like that thing was, I mean, it was a huge success on video. But yeah, no, I think Jonathan, he really takes kind of the aspect of what, because like maybe some of these movies aren't like the most popular from these filmmakers, but something like Cutter's Way, that is it's beautifully put together, and it's shot by Jonathan Cronenweth, I think is his name, who also shot Altered States. He shot Peggy Sue Got Married.
He also shot.
After this, he went on to fucking shoot Blade Runner.
I was just gonna say that was the one that caught my eye, Blade Runner.
yeah. And but also shot
like music videos
Rolling
and
Thunder,
such,
which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's just like he like a lot of these films. It's like a big kickstart of these iconic filmmakers that went on to do huge things. And it's like I don't know, it's like the baby steps. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's a good filmmaking school is just watching some of these Fun City Edition films, because those are the types of films that it's like I said, the baby steps of these iconic filmmakers that went on to do huge things. But yeah, no, it's a great film.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
well,
I was just going to say, so moving on from there, well, Steve, I kind of cut you off. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I was going to say, let me go ahead and bring up the one that I think will be the title that will
you
get this
earlier.
That will really get this label jumping. And, not that they haven't had good stuff yet, but I think this is going to be the one that really gets people to really pay attention to them more. And I think that's Factory 25's In the Soup.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say
that. Because this one's already almost sold out of its limited.
Because I think it's
down
only
to 333.
There's only 1,000 units available, so it is down to 333. So 2/3 of it is officially gone.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the cool thing about some of these partner labels is that these movies are just kind of like, I don't know. It's cool that these partner labels are picking these films up and everything's getting a chance. It's not all like, genre driven.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much, it could be driven by, a certain movement or a certain, as we, with Canadian International Pictures, a certain, regent, or, and I like that more because, that's really what we miss a lot when it comes to seeking out film, is just, especially in other countries, but even in our own country, like there's different places that we just don't know enough about what was going on the indie level, that we can keep discovering.
Especially here in the U.S., when it comes to U.S. cinema, we have a lot of tunnel vision, and a lot of us don't get out of the U.S. Hollywood, cinematic history bubble, and we didn't realize that, like Canada was making movies at the same time we were. All these other countries were making, movies the same time we were. It's sometimes before we were. It's fascinating. But In the Soup is really good. Talk about a film that feels like I couldn't even quite.
It's made for people that like movies.
Yeah, it really is. There was such a mixture.
Like actually loves the aspect of movies and talking about films and discussing films and dissecting films. And The Soup is one of those films that really it's not meta, but it brings in the aspect of, characters loving movies.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool.
That was a thing that really started to happen a lot in the 90s too, with, filmmakers like Kevin Smith and we even get some cameos in this film from some big time.
Oh yeah, the biggest one right away, Jim Jarmusch.
Yeah, Jim
Jarmusch.
Jarmusch.
Like, wait, is this a Jim Jarmusch film? Because he's in it. And I was like, no, but it felt like it from time to time. He's in it. Talk about a cast in here. Steve Buscemi. This is 1992, people, so this is before a lot of these, people had become more well-known. Steve Buscemi, Seymour Cassel, I think a lot of people know of from his partnership in the John Cassavetes films that he was in. And then Jennifer Beals, a young Sam Rockwell's in this film.
He shows up in like a couple scenes, yeah.
Young Stanley Tucci pops up in a couple of scenes as well.
Will Patton was one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Who's kind of want to become one of our better character actors of our generation. Will Patton has.
Yeah,
just look at his IMDb.
He makes a movie good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his performance is always great. He always pops up randomly in movies or some TV shows. He'll pop up in.
His role on Yellowstone. He's good on Yellowstone.
There you go. Yeah, he's in there. He always pops up. But this is a movie that's, was it kind of part of that American indie bubble of the 90s. It was a big hit at Sundance, I think, at the time.
It won the jury,
the Sundance Jury Prize.
Yeah.
So it's a film you got to experience. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I'll just say the Seymour Cassel in this film.
Oh yeah,
it's so great. He's so unhinged and unpredictable and wild.
And watch this back to back with Living in Oblivion. Because
which came out a couple of years after.
It came out like I think maybe 2 or 3 years after. 95. It came out in 95, so 3 years after. So watch In the Soup, and then watch Living in Oblivion, where Steve Buscemi plays a filmmaker and making an indie film, and it's like an awesome kind of both sides of the coin, talking, both speaking on filmmaking, and they're both in black and white.
Yeah, ironically so. But yeah, I really liked In the Soup. But grab this while you can, because it is going fast. It is put out by Factory 25, and Factory 25 actually put out the movie Ape in their last round of releases, and I really like that movie Ape as well. So if you're looking to get into more Factory 25, these two releases specifically back to back are really strong from them.
I think did they also put out that one? What was the one before that one? I think it was the one with the vampire that
they put out.
The modern vampire movie.
Blood.
So yeah, that was pretty good.
Okay,
that was kind of fun.
I didn't see it at the time.
Yeah. All right. So what do we want to go to next? Let's talk about the Amityville Curse.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad because we have Brad here. And I know Brad's a big horror fan, and I'm just fascinated because Vinegar Syndrome just put out Amityville Horror, and now we've got like
the fifth movie,
like the sixth movie,
fifth or something. Where's the box set, Brad?
Apparently,
come on, man.
Is the one I don't. This is a franchise that I haven't really delved into, other than watching the first film when you guys just announced it last month. And I didn't know that apparently there was no copyright on the name Amityville, so that's why we have like so many sequels and sidequels and all kinds of takes on it.
It's a place, so you can't really. Even though it was so funny, I think it was a couple few months ago, I said that because someone was like, "Oh, they're milking this franchise." And I said, "No, it's not a franchise. It's just the name of a place." And someone came at me and said, "I live in New York. There's no place called
I
Amityville."
remember this
And
on
I was
Twitter.
like,
It was on Twitter.
I
Yeah.
sent them the website to because I didn't know if they were because sometimes you don't know if people are joking or not. But from the conversation, it seemed like this person was kind of serious. And then I sent them like the brochure website to Amityville Island.
Yeah.
And then other people from New York were like, "Yeah, this place does exist. I mean, you could still see the house like on Pennsylvania Avenue. Like it's just like I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, no, Amityville Curse. It's I think there's like because a lot of people requested this when we did or asked why we didn't do this in the box set we did when we did 4, 5, 6, and 7. Well, this isn't part of the franchise.
Yeah.
Because those first three films were made, by that production team, and then Steve White came in and made 4, 5, 6, and 7. This came out between. This was in 1990, I think this came out. So this
Yes.
came out between, I think maybe 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. So yeah, it's a Canadian, made film, taking the Amityville name, but not really doing anything with the house, or anything like that. But that said, it's a pretty well done, eerie ghost film with some special effects. This had a Blu-ray release, I think, overseas, maybe about a year or two ago, and I know I picked that up, and I rewatched this recently, and the special effects are really well done. It's just that it had shitty releases all through its life, and this will be something that you can actually view and see and have clarity to the screen. But yeah, no, I think it's a solid film, and I think Kim Coates also, who's
Yes.
the lead in the film, he he's again another great character
Yeah.
actor. This is one of his early roles, and yeah, it's just I think it's just a really small, fun ghost story that has some really cool special effects, even though they're like brief and it's not a special effects movie. They're pretty solid. It's not a good movie, but a lot of the Amityville films are not good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
It's fun.
it kind of fits into it. It's not.
I
It's
mean,
Yeah.
that you've seen
Yeah.
a haunted house movie. You've seen. A lot of them. There's not a lot you can do there necessarily. I mean, you
Yeah.
can, but it depends on how weird you want to get.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, it does what you want if you're just really wanting that kind of haunted house movie, and
Yeah,
it's not going too crazy in the sense of
No, it's not quite the heights of the first film. It's playing on some similar elements from the first film, whole
Yeah.
kind of possession and things like that, and demonic stuff going on. But
Yeah, it doesn't even feature the house.
it doesn't even
or
feature the
look
house.
like
Yeah,
the
I don't
house,
even think
yeah.
they call it. I don't even think it's set in the same location. As
No,
the-
no, no, no. It's
Yeah.
just to play off the name because they knew they could, and it was just it was kind of a money grab in
Yeah,
a way.
I think it was straight to VHS release back in like '90 as well, or it had some
Yeah, yeah,
some
no,
theatrical stuff
yeah,
overseas.
It was direct to video, and it was directed by the guy only directed just a couple movies,
Tom
but
Berry.
he's one of the biggest producers in Hollywood though.
Oh, really?
Because he like runs like the A&E like Lifetime movies. So anytime you see like my neighbor is a killer, my neighbor is a stalker, I'm being stalked at the library, I'm being stalked at home, my sister is a killer, those types of movies, and they usually star Eric Roberts. He's behind a lot of those like thriller made for Lifetime movies. Massive career in that. That might tell you something about the quality of Amityville Curse.
Yeah, yeah.
The Amityville
I
I
will
don't
Curse.
know if
yeah.
Eric Roberts was in the movie. It might have
Yeah.
been a little bit.
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, you were right. Yeah, Kim Coates is another really kind of solid career journeyman actor who's been in a lot of stuff. I think people have been maybe familiar with. I mean, he was on the show Sons of Anarchy for 92 episodes. He was in the movie Goon, the movie with
Yeah,
Sean
he's the
William
coach.
Scott,
Yeah.
which is a movie that I really, really like. He was in that miniseries Godless that was on Netflix a few years ago, that Western from like 2017.
Pierce Brosnan, I think, right? Was that
No,
Pierce?
Godless was that Western.
No, that's what. Oh, it was who's in it? It was Pierce Brosnan. No, that's something
No,
else.
that was like
That's
Jack
Sons or
O'Connell,
something.
Michelle Dockery,
Okay.
Scoot McNairy,
Okay.
Jeff Daniels.
That's who it is. Jeff Daniels. That's who I was thinking
Okay.
of.
Okay. That's Amityville Curse. That's coming from Canadian International Pictures, which is a little bit. I didn't know if that was
That's
a
like their
Canadian
first real
production.
genre. I mean, like they've mostly delved into mostly dramas or maybe
Well,
even
not only that,
comedies, but
a lot of the films that they've released so far have been kind of more deeper catalog titles within Canadian film history. A lot of stuff from like the '60s and things like that. I think The Kid Brother was I think 1987, good
Yeah.
year.
I just recently
and-
watched that. That's good. It was good.
Yeah, and then you have like things like Forbidden Love, and then of course the Buster Keaton Rides Again.
Which I think was their
Yeah,
was
Forbidden
their
Love's
big hit one.
really good.
Yeah.
Nobody Waved Goodbye, which we talked about last month, where it was kind of a almost like a PSA type of movie where like maybe kids don't go against your parents.
God, that kid is
But I'll
so
say this-
annoying.
Don't let it was kind of the opposite of 400 Blows. The more I think about it, Don't Let the Angels Fall is one of their more recent releases that
one's
I think
great,
is fantastic.
Yeah.
That one is running low, so people, if you want to get Don't Let the Angels Fall with the slipcover, that's one I would highly recommend picking up. But yeah, so it's interesting that this is kind of well out of kind of a lot of the movies that they've been doing. I didn't know this was a Canadian film. I guess
Yeah.
it must be. But so we've talked about a couple of other ones here that I think Steve and I are familiar with, or at least I am. Something I want to talk about is the Deaf Crocodile release of Zero Grad, because we talked about this movie months and months ago when Deaf Crocodile really first came on the scene, and I think it was before we even knew they were going to be a partner label at Vinegar Syndrome. They announced Zero Grad, and this movie is just wild and crazy, and it's great. I think it's fantastic. Came out in 1988. It's a Russian film. It's political, satirical. It's like I love how they call it part Agatha Christie, part Monty Python. Very true. Very true.
I just keep remembering the scene where he goes into the office and the secretary's naked and just like
for no reason.
Yeah,
There's no
just-
explanation about it.
And then the boss comes out and he's just like, "Do you see?" He's like, "Yeah." Right.
Yeah,
And then he just go in the office.
Yeah, there's this one scene where he's at a restaurant and they just serve him a cake of his head.
Of his head,
like
yeah.
the cake is his head,
Which is the
molded as a
cover,
cake.
the artwork here
Yeah,
kind
the
of plays
artwork
into
is
that.
It's so dry humor. Like it's such an oddball place that this man has landed in, and he is kind of wrapped up in this murder mystery where like they have him as a suspect, but we know as an audience that he didn't do it, and it's just like that's what the kind of the loose framework of this is, but it's more of a microcosm look at a kind of the look at communism and its faults. Basically, this was towards the end of the USSR, towards the end of communism in Russia, so it's it's taking shots at that. But it's a really great film. I'm glad it's getting a release. I'm glad that all of those early Deaf Crocodile releases are actually getting released here. There was at least 3 of them so far.
Well, a few of theirs have sold out. I know some of them adventure
Ilya
them
Muromets?
adventure, medieval
the Ilya
films.
Ilya Muromets sold out, I think. Sampo, I don't know if it's sold out yet.
Just the slips.
The slip ones, yes.
We mean slips. Yeah, you can
Standards are still
find them.
available. Yeah.
You can still find them.
But yeah,
Right.
it's a cool. Have you gotten a chance
cool.
to check this one out?
For myself?
Yes.
Yeah, years and years and years ago. I mean, a lot of Russian stuff for me. I was very, very big into the Soviet era of filmmaking because they were making movies that were, had a voice, and they used their art to tell their own stories. And any stuff like I've always been big into, Russian cinema, Hungarian cinema, stuff from Scandinavia. Like they are good at, and most of all, Polish cinema. I've
Yeah.
always really loved
I was just gonna
because they're
mention.
able to take the genre elements and mix it in to a satirical state by sending a message, but also making something unique without going over political
Yeah.
with it. Because they were riding a fine line,
Oh yeah, very much so.
during that
Like,
time. Because I mean, and it's unique, and it's always fun to kind of watch these films. And before you do watch these films, maybe take a little bit of a dive on the history of the kind of the state that they were in at the time to understand kind of the generation, very much of like cinema from the U.S. Before, during, after Vietnam. There was a big change and shift into those films, very much like all these other countries. And yeah, Russian cinema in the especially the between like 87 and like the early 90s was very monumental around that time for the message that they were saying. But yeah, no, this is good. I remember it being super psychedelic,
Yeah.
which is a big aspect that I really like. And it was odd, and it's arty, but in the sense of just trying to be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not bleak like a lot of Russian
No, it's a
films.
it's got a quirkiness to it. I
Yeah,
like.
yeah, it's more fun than anything.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
yeah,
Well-
Steven, do you want to just kind of list down the other ones that are here and that we just didn't get a chance to see?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen a few of these others.
Oh, okay, okay.
I've
Didn't
seen
know how far you went.
I have seen Villains from
Oh.
Gunpowder and Sky.
Nice.
Yeah, Villains is fun.
Yeah, it's a fun movie about these two. I guess it's been a minute since I've watched it, but didn't they rob a store or something?
Yeah. They hold up in a, because I haven't seen it in a while too. I was at the I think it was at the premiere of that in South by Southwest. I think they premiered it and I was there. But yeah, it's two runaways. They do a robbery and they get into a house and they break in and they start to uncover different things.
Yeah,
And
we don't want to do
the
it.
relationship starts to fall apart. And it's quirky, it's fun, it's suspenseful at times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like it's one of those scenarios everything can go wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say
Well,
you
they're
don't
trying
want
to
to
make
really
everything
give
go
away
right,
the
yeah.
movie because it's kind of what makes the movie what it is. But
Yeah,
let's just
yeah.
say that they go into the wrong house. The house they picked to go into wasn't exactly the best house to go into, but it's I agree with you, and it's fun, and I like Bill Skarsgård. He's becoming an actor that I think is.
Talk about somebody who's playing monsters.
Yeah, he's about to play Nosferatu. It looks like
He's about to play Nosferatu. Yeah.
so.
That was one that I really wanted to watch, just didn't get a chance to. Anything else, Steven, that you want to
Let's
watch?
see. Other than that, I did see Vortex. We talked about it with the other release from the UK.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we talked about it. It's been a few months.
That's the Gaspar Noé film.
Yes, and it's great. It's
it's getting released by Utopia.
Yeah, it is a slow movie and it is long.
It's like 2 hours and
45 minutes
almost.
Yeah.
Gaspar Noé isn't. He's not a filmmaker for the faint of heart, as a lot of people know, and then we've talked about before. There's a lot of stuff on here that I really wish I had a chance to watch. The new release from Canny, What's Up Connection, I kind of wanted to watch. I do want to mention the AGFA release, Shakorama Video Party. It is another box set put out by AGFA with 4 films actually. The Naked Witch, Violated, Ghost of Hanley House, and Passion in the Sun. All films that came out. 3 out of 4 of these came out in the 60s. 1 came out in the 50s. So kind of a cool, like, I'm assuming low-budgeted horror films that came out during that time.
I like the idea that it's called a video party. Like I like that how that's being advertised. How it's being
I also
marketed.
like how they're all like. Well, one is an hour long, and the other one's an hour long. The longest film here is 85 minutes, so it's kind of like it's kind of setting up that idea of like
you said earlier, like a beer and pizza party, like watch
hanging
these
out
movies,
with friends,
yeah,
and just watching horror movies like late into October on a like dark and stormy night.
Yeah,
I'm dropping stuff over here.
Yeah, we just had a hurricane. Should have watched. If I'd had this, it would have been perfect.
I know, and it's. Yeah, you did get it, Steven.
Well, we didn't get the brunt of it. We just got. I know what Brad did. Brad got the brunt of it, didn't you?
Yeah, unscathed, but yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I do all of the pictures and videos on social media are just massive destruction and flooding down in Florida recently. Um, it's hurricane season. It happens every year, unfortunately.
I thought every time I hear somebody say hurricane season, I think of uh, Pineapple Express, where he's like watching the TV, and she's like, "I thought hurricane season was over."
Well, I mean, I'm in the northeast corridor, along the coast, so we get the hurricanes that start in Florida and then work their way up the coast. So by the time they usually get to us, they're not as strong as
Yeah,
down there.
I'm in
but
North Carolina, so we get some of that good
You're
stuff.
further inland. I'm literally like on the coast. So like
Yeah.
we have like hurricane barriers and stuff because we're on the ocean.
Yeah.
And so by the time it gets to us, it's usually not as strong. But yeah, I'm glad everything went well, Brad. I know I was
Yeah,
following
yeah.
you on Twitter and
Same
stuff.
here. Same here.
But back at the task at hand, Stephen, couple of other releases here of maybe not of note, but Decalogue put out a new release of Dakra, which apparently is the first Tunisian horror film.
Yeah, Docker's legit. It's slow, but it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something
Yeah,
definitely
it was
interesting.
yeah, it did festivals probably because I actually when I was working at a film festival, I programmed this as one of the midnights, which is probably not the best idea because it is a little slow for a midnight movie. But it's really well done, and it's very creepy at times. But it's definitely watch in the mid afternoon.
Yeah, the cover of this is frightening. And then the other artwork, I believe on the back, is also frightening as all heck. I know nothing about this movie, and that's kind of the way I want to go into it and watching it. But this movie just came out in 2018, and it just fascinates me that it's like I said, like the first Tunisian horror film. A couple of other things here from VHS Hit Fest is Blood Hunter, which is another. I think it's a mid '90s vampire film that was straight to VHS. Um, uh, Culture Shock's putting out December, which is a great
That was
title,
the
I
other
think.
that was the other Christmas stuff that I was going to say.
Oh, that was the other Christmas one you were talking about?
Which I watched. There's 24 films in this set, so, and they're short. There a lot of them are
I
short.
didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, short films into one film.
Yeah.
It's a two disc. It's a two disc
It's just
edition.
anthology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a massive amount of interviews and introductions. I'm assuming for nearly every film. Yeah, so there's
I watched I think 4 or
24
5 of
macabre
them,
morsels.
and some of them are really fun. Some of them I'm just like, what's the point? But I guess that's part of the fun of it. Like
part of the magic and mayhem of Christmas.
there's one I watched where some lady tries to return a gift, and
That's
she
a
doesn't
nightmare
have
in
the
of
receipt.
itself. Oh,
and then
that's
she
a
goes, she
nightmare.
leaves, and then she comes back in and hits him over the head, and then it becomes a bloody battle.
Dude, that sounds like some post Black Friday mayhem,
But-
post Christmas mayhem.
But I think that's the
Never-
idea of the whole anthology, is that it's delving into the sad aspects of the dark
Holiday
aspects of
season?
the holidays and how people
it's the
act.
dark stuff that nobody talks about.
Yeah. People's
Yeah.
greed, people's lust for gifts and money and like all that nasty stuff that the holidays bring.
Capitalism.
Yeah, capitalism. So yeah, I mean, it's the few I watched, it was fun. So and I'm guessing they do 24 just so you can lead it up to Christmas.
Yeah, like 24 days of Christmas.
Yeah.
But do you want to just list the other ones here, Steven?
Well, I did want to jump
okay.
back to Blood Hunter.
Okay.
Okay.
So the reason why Blood Hunter is semi important that a lot of people aren't talking about is because the film's been lost for numerous years. It's only been like self distributed by the filmmakers themselves, childhood friends making films together. So it is unique in the sense that this film has virtually been unseen, which that's what kind of VHS Hitfest is kind of doing, is they are going after these kind of lost shot on video films. Not all of it shot on video because that's not their main thing, but they are focusing on kind of these. So if you're part of that, were ever part of that, I mean, this is probably only speaking to like a couple people because it's like there was this underground trading VHS community for numerous years in the 90s. and well into maybe like the 2000s. And some of these films were only survived because of tape trading, because of self distribution. So there's countless movies that are lost to time because these filmmakers, they made these low budget films and they went to their hometowns and they made 50 copies and they sold each one for $100. They made the budget of the movie back and they got their movie on the shelves and their friends to rent. So some of these films, and there's quite a few of them, they're virtually unheard of, because of this aspect of DIY filmmaking. Because we all know like low budget movies were made, shot on video movies were made in the 80s. Through like United started putting that stuff out through like Blood Cult and all that other stuff, and those were big hits. Sledgehammer things. All those films started generating a lot of buzz because they were mass produced. They were putting in every video store. Well, some of these other filmmakers, small time filmmakers, couldn't make any any deals. They weren't connected in any way, so they just started doing things themselves. And there's quite a few. I mean, it could be a long list, and it's some of these stuff. Some of these movies don't even have IMDb pages. It's just that you kind of have to have your ear to the ground during that time of tape trading and seeing these like incredibly rare movies that are virtually unseen. So it's really cool that this company has come out to kind of do this. And there's more to come, I'm sure, from them. And I know, being that I did this for a little while with Wild Eye Releasing, and some of the stuff that I worked on for Wild Eye Releasing is now coming out after after all these years because I haven't worked there and since I don't know, maybe 20 2019, I think, towards the end of 2019. So stuff like, Slaughter Day, that recently got announced by Visual Vengeance. That was an acquisition that I did of a bunch of filmmakers from Hawaii and so stood. I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over your show.
Oh no, that's
But
okay.
yeah, like LA Age Jabber and there's LA Age Jabber was more or less put out there in a bigger scope. But yeah, Slaughter Day was a big deal. I know that they have a couple more, which they haven't announced yet, so I'll keep my lips shut. And then the same thing with TerraVision, which I helped acquire some stuff. And there's with TerraVision, there's some lost films that are unavailable. Never, and some of them have never ever been released, even independently. They just sat on a shelf. And I think that there's this. People think that IMDb is the end all be all of information, but there's so much missing,
Yeah.
and so many films that are lost to time. It almost like you have to be into that tape trading community to remember some of these movies. Because even I'll be like remembered of certain things, be like, holy shit, I remember, buying that at a tape convention, or someone will say
That's
Aunt Timpson was a big trader that did a lot of this underground stuff, who was eventually arrested
oh gee.
for doing that stuff. But Ant was a, now he's produced Greasy Strangler and
Oh yeah.
the Elijah Wood Daddy movie. What was that called? Come
Oh
on, Daddy.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. That movie
I think it was
he's
Come In Daddy or
I'll look it up. Elijah, talk about somebody who does just some
the
odd horror.
the modern day trauma movies that are on a budget.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Ant originally started. He was a tape trader, and people like Sylvester Stallone's son, Stage Stallone, who was a good buddy of mine. He was a tape trader, and that's how I got a lot of my tapes. Was through him and mailing back and forth and going to certain conventions. My mom took me to conventions where there would be like 30 people, 20 people, all really skeezy looking people that were had these
Oh
like
yeah.
black tapes, and you thought that blank, like not blank blank, but
No
no
labels. No labels.
yeah, no really labels, no really identification on them. And you afraid to get a snuff film or something. Well, they weren't, but
Yeah.
essentially that's kind of was like. I mean, that's the whole Charlie Sheen thing with for the guinea pig films, is when
Mm.
those films were distributed, they were blank, no labels, and then the story of Charlie Sheen watching American or the guinea pig films.
No.
Yeah, he got a hold of one and watched it, and he called the FBI.
Oh, gee.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and they investigated the making of those films. I think he had Flowers of Flesh and Blood, which was I think that was the film that he saw. And you could even still watch that film today, and you're like, how the fuck did they do these special effects? And yeah, no, he thought he had a real snuff film. And that's like what the Guinea Pig series was known for. Not American Guinea Pig that Unearthed and Stephen Byro has done. I'm talking about the original, like, what is 7 or 8 guinea pig films from the early 90s. But again, tape trading during that time, that's kind of how it was. So you would, pick up stuff from Germany, and it's Olaf Edenbach films where you just pick up and you're like, what the fuck is this? Because there's no information on this. There wasn't an IMDb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're
the time.
talking '90s, there pre-internet, pre-dial-up. I mean, you're just kind of
Yeah, no, it was just you would trust some of these people in knowing what they had, because these countries and people would make dupes because they knew, it was piracy, but it was piracy in an honest form, in order to more people to see these things. And if they didn't, we wouldn't have some of these movies today.
very true. Yeah,
Some of us wouldn't know they existed.
yeah. That Elijah
And
Wood
we're
movie.
still kind of discovering stuff.
Yeah, that Elijah Wood movie is Come to Daddy
Come
from
to Daddy,
2019.
yeah.
Coincidentally, you mentioned Troma, Stephen. Apparently, he's going to be in that Toxic Avenger.
Ah, yes.
Movie that they're
but
doing
that's
right
not,
now.
That's not by Troma, is it? No. I know.
No,
yeah.
the one with Peter Dinklage
Yes,
and
yes,
Kevin
the
Bacon's in
Dinklage
it.
Troma, the Dinklage Toxic Avenger, yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to be a big budget version of Toxic Avenger. I think that's what it is, right?
Well, the thing with Elijah Wood is that he's one of these people, like, even though he's been in some major movies,
Yes.
Elijah Wood is a big proponent of independent cinema.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember, like, you could look up the interview. I think he was like on David Letterman or Jay Leno, and they asked him what his favorite movie was, and he said it was Tim Ritter's Truth or Dare. It's a shot on video movie.
Yeah.
He said this like on fucking national television on a late night show, talking about a shot on video movie, his favorite movie, while he's promoting some big budget film that he's doing. So yeah, no, he's like he's at film festivals. He's just there to watch fucked up shit. So it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, he's a big cinephile. Like,
yeah.
he's
So
huge.
like people like that,
Yeah,
people that have access and money, someone like even Sage Stallone, who helped create Grindhouse Releasing. That's one of Sage's. So Sage was a huge proponent, but I mean, and it's his godfather was Joe Spinell.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just kind of a you think of it like these kind of like kind of some of these heavyweight Hollywood things. It's just that some of those people were the ones that were generated that loved cinema so much that they were kind of helping along, and that's kind of how a lot of these people met. So this is kind of a unique thing. So long tangent off of Blood Hunter,
Yes.
but that's the importance of Blood Hunter.
Yeah.
So if you want unique films and stuff like with like what we did, Vinegar Syndrome did for New York Ninja, there's these countless lost films out there that you do not know of, that you have not heard of, because probably only 20 people have.
Yeah.
So it's cool Dan is doing this stuff, because I mean he's blowing me away with some of this stuff, and I know some of the stuff that he's going after because we've crossed paths. But yeah, no, it's all friendly, of course. I think Dan's doing a great job. But yeah, no, it's really neat that there's other people in this community that care about these lost movies, and they're not all great. But the point is that even the worst movie shouldn't disappear.
Oh yeah,
because it took time and effort to make it.
Yep, exactly. But let's just run down real quickly these last few. We got
Okay.
From Dark Star, we have PVT Chat.
which I heard is good. I haven't seen
Really?
that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a modern. I think this movie came out like last year
Okay.
Yeah.
or 2 years ago.
Yeah, Dark Star does more modern stuff aside from their acquisition of Fair Game.
Yeah. All right, and then we have Altered Innocence has Grand. Let me get the pronunciation right.
It's Grand Jeté.
Jeté, okay. Which I think is another pretty recent film.
Yeah, I don't think I've
2022. Yep.
I've seen.
It's actually I don't actually you know what I don't even think this film has really been released in America yet. It might be just getting released near the end of this year or something. I think. So
wow.
Yeah, it's something pretty recent. And then I think the last one we haven't brought.
Saturn's Core?
There's Saturn's Core is The Pact, which looks like kind of like an inspired by kind of like a culty film. Not that the film's a cult, and maybe it is, but it's about cults.
It's like about a cult, yeah.
Yeah. So,
which I believe is another movie, because I think Brad Sykes remade that movie.
Oh, really?
In like probably about 10 years ago. So yeah, Brad Sykes is a unique career because he kind of works in Hollywood, but he also makes like really
straight
like
to video,
low budget films. So if I'm not mistaken, that movie's from 94, 95. Yeah. So I don't think that's been available, like, unless you're in those like underground circles.
Yeah.
Because I know he remade it. I think I have the right movie.
Yeah, he remade it in 2013. So about 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same premise.
So
yeah.
It's a unique movie. Watch the 90s version, not the new one.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
So that's it for seven. Where am I? Vinegar Syndrome and Vinegar Syndrome partner labels for October 2022. Just a hell of a slate once again. We'll be back here November 1st, probably doing this all over again.
Yeah. So, Brad, did you want to continue with us? We got a few more labels to cover, or did you want to bow out?
Yeah. I mean, I can stick around. It depends on what you're going to talk about.
Well. Okay. So we got a few. If you don't have anything to say, don't strain yourself.
No. I only talk about stuff that I want to talk about.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool.
As you already know, I've interjected a couple times.
No, you're good, man. Let's go to Umbrella Entertainment. So
you want to go there? I was gonna slide in.
No, don't do it. Don't slide anywhere. I just said Umbrella Entertainment. Don't mess this up.
I had a transition.
I don't care. I've already taken over. Umbrella Entertainment. So we got a few releases here, and a little bit box set heavy more than usual.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went Burt Reynolds. I had a Burt Reynolds marathon. I went a little Burt crazy.
But in general, the Umbrella Entertainments are usually pretty, like, in the sense of the packaging, pretty like bare bones. But this slate, there's like two box sets, and then like and then the Old Boy releases got a set, a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about a movie that's gotten so many Blu-ray releases over the years from everywhere, seemingly. But the one that I want to talk about right off the top is Box of Burt Collector's Edition. This is a collection of 5 Burt Reynolds films.
Four?
It has.
Five?
Is it? Yeah, it has the Cannonball Run, Cannonball Run 2, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Stroker Ace, and The Man Who Loved Women. Kind of his early 80s to kind of mid 80s. A couple of his movies there. I just went and watched all of these. I had seen Cannonball Run.
Did you almost want to shave your goatee and just have a stash because you wanted to feel closer?
No, the goatee is actually, I've had it for years now. People can't see it because we're not on a video, but it's actually an homage to Orson Welles. That's why I have it. Because later on in his life when he had his goatee and he was dressing like a magician, that's actually like the wallpaper on my phone is him and F for Fake, just dressed as the magician, because it's a cool thing. But Burt Reynolds obviously notorious for his mustache, and of course this box set is appropriately titled Box of Burt, the Man, the Myth, the Mustache, and it's got his I think that's like his centerfold from like Playgirl on the cover of him, just sprawled out. But Yeah, I went and just watched all these movies because I had seen Cannonball Run. I didn't remember the premise or the plot at all of it, and I just found myself just going through all these Burt Reynolds movies over and over again. Um, a few of these are directed by Hal Needham, who he teamed up with a lot during the early part of his career. I think Hal Needham directed like Smoking the Bandit and stuff like that. I believe Hal Needham was a uh, stuntman turned director, if memory serves. Yeah.
I'm disappointed right now. You're not mentioning something for a plug.
Oh,
Oh,
shit, go ahead, man.
yeah.
I mean, it's no longer in print, but he directed Rad.
Oh, he did direct Rad, which you guys
Yeah.
had put out.
Yeah.
That was a big time seller for Vinegar Syndrome. That thing sold out. That 4K sold out so quick. I remember people buzzing about that. That was right. That was actually one of the first times I heard of Vinegar Syndrome. Was in putting out Rad. Uh, Another Hal Needham film from the 80s. You could still find a version of that. I think actually on Vinegar Syndrome, the Blu-ray. I think.
No.
Yeah.
Mill Creek
Oh,
put
okay,
out the
okay.
stand like their own version. Yeah.
Okay. I knew it was floating around somewhere in some form. But yeah, this box of Burt Reynolds with a couple of Hal Needham stuff. Steven, have you seen any of these films? Or, obviously Burt Reynolds, such an icon, obviously recently passed over the last few years. But yeah.
Yeah, when we've
I-
talked
I-
about Burt Reynolds before, I've told you before, I've never really gotten into his career too much. I mean, he's always kind of like popped into movies that I've seen, but I've never really delved into his films on purpose. I believe I've seen the first Cannonball Run maybe a while back ago, but I've never seen any of these other ones. I always see The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas for some reason on Blu-ray in Walmart. It's like always
yeah,
there
it's
on the
there
shelf.
all the time. And that Blu-ray's been out since 2016 by Universal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a combo like Universal Warner Brothers box set, I think. In terms of like where these movies had originated from, which companies. Because actually one of these films, which one was it? Was it Stroker Ace? It was actually a Golden Harvest film. It was like a Golden Harvest, like Warner Brothers, like distribution team up at the time. I can't remember which one. I may be misquoting that, but I just found that
I think it's when they. I don't remember if that's one of the films they did, but that wasn't really a team up. I think it was to get them out of bankruptcy.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But I don't. Yeah, I think it was. They went to Warner. Like, yeah. There's. I forget the story behind it, but that's the reason why it was to help them out of
Bankruptcy.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I know that
something like that.
there was a rumor earlier this. Yeah, I think because Warner Brothers they either own some Shaw Brothers or some Golden Harvest films that they have in their catalog that they can actually release on Blu-ray, and they talked about doing that in the future. But obviously, the end of the year has arrived, and they didn't really do it this year, so maybe next year. But yeah, so Cannonball Run and the Cannonball Run 2. Similar premised films. It's about a race across the country, and you've got you've got Burt Reynolds as well as a host of other people making appearances in this movie. Specifically, a lot of the same actors will pop up in these films. Dom DeLuise, I know would pop up. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. was in this movie. Terry Bradshaw, Jackie Chan is in this movie. Peter Fonda shows up in one scene as a motorcyclist, like a la Easy Rider or something like that. Roger Moore is literally playing like Roger Moore, but he's playing Roger Moore as James Bond, driving around and essentially in Aston Martin the whole time. But the second film is like it's a mad world, but with Cannonball Run as the premise, just throwing as many cameos of people that you could possibly find in a movie. Like a lot of the same people showing back up, but you also get like Telly Savalas is like a cop who's after them. Shirley MacLaine shows up as like a nun. Sid Caesar shows up at one point. Tim Conway, Jackie Chan's in again. Tony Danza's in the movie. It's just like it's a madcap of just everybody showing up at one point. Richard Kiel who was obviously he was Jaws in was it Live and Let Die, the James Bond film?
He was Jaws in Jaws.
No, that'd be incredible if they actually got one of the
Finally,
sharks.
you know who it was.
But yeah, Cannonball Run 2, lots of fun. These movies move like lightning, like they just because it's a car race the whole time. Best Little Whorehouse in Texas stars Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton opposite one another. Dolly Parton is a madam of a brothel, famous a renowned brothel in Texas, and some conservative person wants to get it shut down. But the problem is that, yeah, all the politicians go there and whatnot. Stroker Ace is really good. The Man Who Loved Women is probably the more serious of these films. But yeah, this is a great box set of just if you're a big Burt Reynolds fan.
Brad, you're a big Burt Reynolds fan?
I got into Burt Reynolds late.
Yeah.
Same here. Same here.
It's one of those things that I always associated with like old people when I was younger. Like I never watched any Burt Reynolds movies. It was just that him and Don Johnson.
Yeah.
I just kind of like completely dismissed. And then like, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, I realized how dumb I was.
And Don Johnson's had a great resurgence too in recent years.
Yes.
I've liked seeing his later career stuff. Let's go through these a little bit. We got to pick up the pace
Death
a
in
little bit.
Brunswick is the Sunburnt Screens number 22 from 1990. This Hammer Horror Volume 1, 2 out of 3 of these films we've talked about before because they've gotten individual releases other places. The Evil of Frankenstein, which is the last in the Hammer Horror Frankenstein Peter Cushing line, I believe.
Yeah.
Paranoiac, which I think got a Shout Factory release recently, is very good. And then Nightmare is the film I didn't get to see. And then Old Boy, I think everybody kind of knows Old Boy by this point. If you don't know Old Boy, it's one of the movies. It's Park Chan-wook's film. It's notorious for a twist third act ending that'll shock you. Yeah, I think that's it for the releases.
That's it for the anything to say about any of them, Brad?
No, I'll save for time. I think most of those films are good.
Okay,
nice.
Yeah, it's just I mean most of that stuff's been out over here.
Yeah,
but at least Umbrella's region free, right? So
yes, a lot of times that Australia stuff sneaky region free.
Yeah, it may say Region B on the packaging, but it plays in your Region A player all the time. Where do you want to go to next, Stephen?
Do you want to stay in Australia?
Yeah, we'll stay in Australia. While we're here, we might as well stay in the realm. So we've got Via Vision Entertainment and Imprint. So we've got a couple of releases here. We have The Killer Elite, The Eagle Has Landed, Burn, Fear is the Key, Pork Chop Hill, and A Rage to Live. What an interesting group of releases. Solid group, I would say.
Yeah. I got a chance to check out a couple of these. I think the most well known probably of this group is The Killer Elite.
And Peck and Paul, baby.
Peck and Paul.
Yeah, that's Peck and Paul.
Early James Caan, early Robert Duvall. And it's great. I mean, I really enjoyed watching it. It's got a great feel to it. It's got that gritty 70s vibe. And it's, the great thing about films with this kind of high conceptness to them back in this time was that they still felt small. They were big. This is a film about like behind the scenes government agents fighting each other, but the scope kind of is big, but it's filmed in such a small way that it just makes the film so much better. Like I just really love when films have a big idea, but they keep it on a small level. And of course that was just the time we were in where we didn't make everything explode into big special effects extravaganzas. They did what they could with what they had and still made great movies, though the ideas were big. And so you start the movie off with kind of a little bit of a twist, and then it drives the movie forward. I really enjoyed it. It was my first time watching it. So
yeah, it's an early James Caan role. This was post Godfather. They also have obviously released The Gambler as well, which is I think in that same era. So some more 70s James Caan, just great stuff. This did get a Blu-ray release here in 2014 from Twilight Time, so people may already have that release, but this one is coming with a plethora of special features, so you may want to snag this while you can. The Eagle Has Landed is a movie, is actually the last movie directed by Jim Sturgis. And you want to talk about a cast of people, well-known actors, Michael Caine, Donald Sutherland, Robert Duvall again, even like Larry Hagman, who was on Bewitched, has a role in this movie. This movie is a fiction. It's a movie based off of a novel of the same name, where it's a fictionalized plot of the Nazis trying to capture Winston Churchill towards the end of World War II. And
so this pairs with Valkyrie with Tom Cruise.
Yes, I mean they take the same accuracy when it comes to nobody giving a damn about German accents. I mean, you got Michael Caine. Half the cast is British, and they just using their accents. It's so odd. It's so odd to just see Michael Caine dressed as a Nazi with a British accent during World War II. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. The movie is kind of an old style movie. It runs about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but if you're someone who likes World War II, World War II war films, it's fun for that regard. I've always wanted to watch this movie because it was a Jim Sturgis film, and I know there's been a Shout Factory Blu-ray that's been available for years here, and which is still in print. This has a couple of new special features, and there's an extended edition as well. But yeah, it's good. I dug it. Next movie I really wanted to watch because it's getting a big deluxe hard case edition, and that's the movie Burn, or Kamada, starring Marlon Brando. This came out in 1969, so this was before he was in The Godfather, before he was in Last Tango in Paris. This is in that 60s era of Marlon Brando where he was in Mutiny on the Bounty and stuff like that. This is actually available to watch on YouTube if people care to watch it, or you could just get this release. It is a 2-disc set. It's gotta be good if they putting in the big hard deluxe casing.
That doesn't really mean it's going to be good, but I mean.
But at least they're paying special attention to it.
But it's Marlon Brando, and Marlon Brando's is a commodity
icon. Yeah, world famous actor.
Yeah. Brad, anything? Have you seen Burn?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. Well,
going back to the other film,
Eagles.
That was shot by one of my favorite DPs, Anthony Richmond.
Oh yeah.
Who shot one of the films we released, Old Dracula.
Nice.
He also shot Candyman, Tales from the Hood, and I think one of the Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh yes, that goes right in.
But no, he's had a rad career.
Yeah,
but he's kind of just.
He shot some Nicholas Rogue stuff like Don't Look Now.
Yeah.
Man Who Fell to Earth and Walkabout.
Yeah, and great DP, but now he's shooting Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies and shitty comedies, but he gets paid for it.
Yeah, but maybe sometimes some people at some point get sick of being artistic.
Yeah,
it's just if you know how to shoot a movie within set up the camera, get a shot done within a couple hours, you're hired.
Yeah.
Make the money where you can while you can. So there's that, and then there's Fear is the Key, which I didn't get to see, Steve. I don't know if you got to.
I didn't.
Venture towards that.
What is it?
Fear is the Key. It's from.
It's first time on Blu-ray.
Yeah, from 1972.
No, I haven't seen that though.
No.
Okay. Nope.
Pork Chop Hill I actually did get to see. This is a Korean War film starring Gregory Peck. This is another film I have wanted to watch for years. There has been an Olive Films Blu-ray that's been around for several years now. I don't think it had any special features at all to it, because Olive really didn't produce any features for a lot of their releases. So this is getting a few new special features. And this entire movie takes place on the Battle of Pork Chop Hill in the Korean War. The Korean War doesn't get a lot of time or a lot of exposure when it comes to movies, because it's sandwiched in between World War II and Vietnam, two culturally, gigantic warfares for the 20th century that really shaped the way our world is today in a lot of ways. And Korea is kind of sandwiched in there in the early 1950s. Ironically, that war is actually not technically over. There's just been an armistice since the 50s, but that's a little political there. But Stephen, I did get to see that you saw A Rage to Live.
Yes.
So talk about that.
Well, A Rage to Live. This is an interesting film because I think a lot of what it wants to talk about is sexual freedom. But it really it turns it. I don't know if that's why we're putting this release out, because it is kind of like a film that's talking about something that's kind of interesting. That's definitely something that is a subject that we talk about now a lot, but it kind of feels like it's kind of, a more, kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a after school special type of like, Reefer Madness, like putting down, being having sex at a young age, because then it'll make everybody think that you're a slut, and then it'll ruin your life.
Sexual oppression.
Yeah.
Sexual oppression, which leads to repression, which can lead to a lot of psychological issues.
But in this film, the main character, she early on gets sexually assaulted. And then she becomes kind of sexually active, like really young, and sexualized really young, and then starts to have relationships with many older men. And then she finally gets married, and then during her marriage, she then has some affairs that ruin her. So it's like this moristic tale about I guess having being into sex, and that. So it's like one of them things where I'm not sure if the movie is necessarily like putting its point across well. So it's one of them ones I want to watch again to see if I missed something. Okay. But it's definitely an interesting watch. And great performance by the lead actress.
Suzanne Pleshette.
Yes, she's really good, and also Ben Gazzara is in the film.
Is in the film.
It's not a big role, but he's in there.
Okay. Yeah, Susan Pleshette was in The Birds. She played Annie Hayworth, who was, I think, Tippi Hedren's character's friend. She meets a kind of gruesome demise in that film. I'm actually very, very curious.
It's a solid movie.
Go back and watch that movie.
Yeah, it's solid. But it's a little bit questionable in its intentions. I'm not sure. And it depends on how you want to look at the movie. But anything there? Anything else, Brad, before we move on?
No, okay. Nothing on that one.
Okay. All right.
No comment.
Let's move on to Eureka.
Yes. Big news in Eureka this week. Sent a little bit of waves throughout the collecting community. They're going to be putting out a 4K UHD release of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is Robert Wine's famous silent film.
And it's based off the recent Nicolas Cage movie, his favorite movie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, in the what's the unbearable weight of massive talent? He's this is my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him.
He says it a lot of times in the movie.
Yeah, the movies. This is a touchstone film. I mean, I can't really express how kind of important this movie is to film history and also of the horror genre. I mean, Brad, I'm pretty sure you have something to say about The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah. No, I mean, the silent, era of films. I mean, the renaissance of those films created the 30s films for the U.S. and the monster movies, and then that generated, more films in the 60s and 70s, and then of course the 80s. And like, if it wasn't for like Méliès and all these people making these films from 1890 to 1920 was Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but it was also an achievement in filmmaking because there was most of the sets were paper, I believe, on the film. It was a very, very uniquely made film, and the aspect of in Paris alone, the film was huge. I remember reading a story that it played in Paris. And don't know how many theaters, but for 7 years, it played theater. That's how massive the film was, and it sparked, this generation of filmmaking during that time, which a lot of that stuff can be related to now of kind of this more artistic approach to these visceral nightmares born on screen, because that's kind of where the idea come from, is the freaks and darkness. And yeah, no, it's a really unique film. It's visually stunning. It's important. It's incredibly important too.
Yep.
Yeah, that whole era of like German silent films, I would say of the 20s, all the stuff by F.W. Murnau. We just talked about Nosferatu a little bit
It's
earlier, but there's still
Dreyer's films,
yeah, Carl Theodor Dreyer's films. Even not even, I mean, it could be screwed as a horror film. Passion of Joan of Arc is a horrific film in many ways, but just stunning film. But his film Vampire as well. Even F.W. Murnau's Sunshine is I think one of the greatest silent films ever. Fritz Lang's Metropolis, my favorite silent film, is
Yeah.
that's like the bedrock of science fiction for many generations to come after that. Of course, Georges Méliès early on in French cinema would be the bedrock of science fiction films as well. So this is in that really important historical era, and the Cabinet
Yeah,
of
it's
Dr.
the birth
Caligari.
of German expressionism.
Yeah, it birthed so much out of that. We've got so many filmmakers who came over here to the U.S. who brought all of that stuff with them and put it into American cinema. That's why we got
film noir.
Film noir.
Yeah.
That's why we got Alfred Hitchcock took a lot from German expressionism in the 20s of the British films he was making in the 20s, in the 30s, brought that sense of fear over to us here and made the suspense films that he did later on. So there's just so much you can go into when it comes to the importance of German expressionism and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. But this release is, I think, fantastic for so many reasons. It's been a few years since we've gotten a Blu-ray release here of this movie. I think we got one.
Kino put it out or something?
Yeah, Kino put it out in 2014, which I have. And this is obviously, maybe it's coming from the same 4K restoration that was done at the time. Not quite sure. It does say 2014 restoration. But obviously it's going to be full 4K on a 4K disc and not, compressed down to 1080p. But you're getting a few special features. It looks like it's coming in a thick box set. So this is going to be, I think, a release a lot of people are going to buy. And it's coming out in December, right around the holiday season. So
how many versions of the film do they have?
It doesn't say. It just says
got alternate scores.
It's got 2 scores. And that's
all it's saying right now. It's not saying that there's alternate versions of the movie yet.
There's not that it matters. The full version is the most important, but the film's been recut numerous time.
Here I see here.
It says the runtime is 78 minutes.
No, it's the longest version of the movie, I believe. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that it had been cut down so many different ways. I know it's tough to get the original scores.
Different territories at the time. I don't know when the years were, but it was. I know it was cut different times, different territories.
Because if you go down to IMDb, it says the movie's an hour and 7 minutes, that's not the cut that they're putting out here. That is not the cut at all.
Also coming with 100-page book coming into it. So
wow,
extensive book in there.
That's why it's coming in a box. You do get a 52-minute documentary on the cultural and historical impact of the film, and there's a new.
We should have got a Nicolas Cage feature
commentary.
Commentary,
yeah.
Please.
That would have been amazing.
He could play his character of him playing Nicolas Cage in that movie, loving this movie. Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr. playing his role on the commentary. That's what I would have loved. But it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so next movie is Yes, Madam, which I did not get to see, but it stars Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock. I really, really wanted to watch this movie for this episode, but I did not get a chance to. This is something I may just straight up buy because Eureka's been putting out a lot of great martial arts films from the 70s and 80s, a lot of stuff from Golden Harvest. I got to catch up on these because these sell out. These do sell out very quickly. But yeah, I kind of wish I saw this. Steven, you got anything on Yes, Madam?
No, I haven't got a chance to check it out. Brad?
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah, one of Corey Yoon's best films. It's one of it's one film that put Cynthia on the map. Of course, with the Michelle Yeoh as the star power. But yeah, no, it's like it's insane. I mean, any films from Hong Kong around that time, just the fight scenes alone were glorious because they really hit each other. It's not it's stunts, but they're really hitting each other in Hong Kong around that time, and Cynthia was that's how she mainly got her start. But yeah, Yes, Madam's really good. I'm kind of curious if they'll use like what version. I don't think they would be able to get the rights to it, but there's a version of Yes, Madam that's really good that uses a lot of the score from Halloween uh,
Oh wow.
integrated in the film. That works surprisingly well. But yeah, the movie's been, I mean, mainly because a lot of things were ripped off around that time. But yeah, no, it's a great action movie. The stunt work, some of the sets that they were fighting with and fighting on are insane. But yeah, I know it's like one of Cynthia's favorite films that she's ever done. Because I mean, again, it was her stepping stone into the industry for forever. But yeah, no, it's a really great film. Like I said, the choreography is great. The camera work. It's like one of those true, wonderful like Hong Kong actioneer like films. Just insane. So really, and plus that's the other thing. It's just insane.
And I
Uh,
and I know that Cynthia Rothrock has been in a couple of Vinegar Syndrome releases, specifically recently, Righting Wrongs. Your
yeah,
release that you guys had put out for Righting Wrongs, and I believe she was in New York Ninja, right?
yeah. We did it. We casted her in New York Ninja. I mean, she was an actress that I gravitated towards very early on in my age. Uh, when I very first discovered, I think the very first movie I ever rented was China O'Brien, one and two with her, and I was kind of hooked because one, she's also incredibly beautiful, but she also can uh, fight like a motherfucker.
Oh yeah, she kicked a lot of ass in those movies and in her career. Yeah, but yeah, she was one because she was on the special features for New York Ninja. Which, if you haven't picked up New York Ninja yet, just the story of through that you go through when it comes to the making for the special features is a movie in and of itself in terms of just the plot line, what you guys had to do to create that movie. Um, yeah, so that that's just an
Go
incredible
back to our
journey.
last Brad Henderson episode, and you can just hear
Yeah,
all
that actually
about
connects
that.
directly back to it. Because since then, I got New York Ninja and had seen it, and then going through the special features, and it's just like, yeah, it's just a monumental feat, incredible monumental feat. But moving on from there, we have a double feature here. This is the last of the Eureka announcements, and this is a double feature that stars both Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard, and it's The Cat and the Canary and The Ghost Breakers. Uh, one came out in 1939, the other one came out in 1940. Um, and they're both like horror films of the time. They're both kind of like mysteries and like they're spooky and they're a little they're not scary obviously, but
They're
the
the
first
hocus.
film
They're the hocus pocus of their time.
kind of yeah, because it's Bob Hope, you can't really go too he's a jokester, he's saying he's like joking around most of the time. Um, it's so the first film is a decade after an eccentric millionaire has died. People have come together at his home um, to read his will off, and then like there are some murders start happening when everyone is gathered there, and they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Uh, Bob Hope and Paula Goddard have like I think they have like a romantic thing going on there, and he's trying to protect her because it seems like something's after her. Whatever, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. The second film, The Ghost Breakers, I actually liked a little bit more, and this is dealing with kind of like voodooism and like zombie stuff and like that type of magic and zombie stuff of that time. Basically, Bob Hope ends up kind of making his way down towards Cuba along with Paul Godard's character through a happenstance, and they end up having once again a romantic thing going on. But she's apparently, I think, inherited like a haunted castle in Cuba, and she's going down there to kind of check it out. And yeah, that's kind of the story. It's more of the journey getting there than when you actually get to the haunted castle, which is like where the third act takes place. And it's kind of Scooby-Doo-ish, to be honest with you. But I enjoy the atmosphere and stuff like that. And these movies are, relatively short run times, so they're fun, like classic, cinema of the time.
All right. All right.
Steven? Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say because I haven't seen him. But
okay.
And I'm Brad. Nothing. Yes.
No, nothing to say, but I do have to bolt.
Okay, man. Well, we appreciate you. You almost made it to the end, man. Almost made it to the end, but
2.5 hours. That's not too bad.
That's great, man. Yeah, we appreciate
Every podcast I'm on, I'm always on for 2.5 hours just because I can't shut the fuck up.
Well, that's why we asked you here so you wouldn't shut the fuck up, so that's okay. Yeah. But thanks for dropping in and guesting for us, and can't wait to do it again.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, man.
Thank you.
All
right, bye.
All right, so thanks again to Brad Henderson. He came in and filled in for us, and
at very short notice.
Very short notice, like a few hours. So
yeah, very nice. It's also very nice to talk to him, especially with Vinegar Syndrome has just dropped a monster.
Yeah, he's always a wealth of just spewing knowledge out of him.
Yeah, all good stuff, all fascinating stuff, all stuff that I'm interested in. The behind the scenes and what's going on, the Vinegar Syndrome, what's going on with a lot of these movies, and a lot of context to these movies, because a lot of these movies, like he said,
haven't seen the light of day. Yeah,
are very, very, very much unknown.
Yeah,
but just kind of wrapping things up for the most part with us, because we went through most of everything. Just one little thing that I wanted to slide in earlier, I guess I'll slide it in here at the end, is Warner Archive has their last two
We do
releases.
Have another slate after that too.
We do have another slate, but I'll slide this in now.
Okay.
Oh, we do have another slate. Damn.
I was going to say you're about to miss a whole big slate.
Yes, I did.
So, slide it in there fast because I have seen one of these.
Yeah, so Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and Night of the Iguana are getting Blu-ray releases in December from Warner Archive, and that will, I think, end their year in terms of releases. They did also say that there are more releases coming next year, more than they had this year, obviously, with all the stuff going on at Warner Brothers. Glad to see it. We're still getting movies from Warner Archive next year coming out on Blu-ray. I've seen what's interesting is I've seen Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. I haven't seen Night of the Iguana, but I've been wanting to see Night of the Iguana for many years now, so I'm kind of jealous of Steven.
Yes, I got the chance to watch this the other day.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's you got this priest who's kind of been denounced by his church, and then he kind of, I guess, goes out on kind of like he seems to have fallen off the wagon. He's starting to be a little bit of a drunkard, and so now he's like taking these like he's basically shepherding these group of women through these like tours. These tours in some tropic, I can't remember where it is, but it's like in a tropical, area. And so through their travels, there's a young girl who kind of like is like 15 who keeps trying to like, get him to run away. And this priest, of course, is like an older man. He's like 30s, 40s.
It's all is he portrayed by Richard Burton?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I believe so. Yes. Sorry, I don't have I forgot about Warner Archive, so I don't have this all the information in front of me right now.
I'm just saying, just because I know of this movie so well because of the cast being so like filled with stars.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he's the main actor. But he basically, we don't really know why he was denounced from his church. The rumors start at the beginning. You get this whole like him preaching to the congregation, and then he starts kind of going off on a tangent and. Because he notices the crowd's like talking about him, like whispering in the crowd, like, and he just starts letting it get to him, and he starts yelling at everybody and saying, "Hey, I know what you think you know about me, but and he just starts and he just basically shoos everybody out of the church as he's yelling at him, and so then time passes, and now he's doing this tour, and he's, I guess trying to figure, it's one of the movies where I think it's considered a LGBTQ movie, where there's subtle hints of that with his character, that he might be gay, maybe had a little bit of a relationship. So then when this girl that's on the tour, this young girl, starts flirting with him, and he, he's trying to stay away from her, but she keeps. And then it makes the other women on the tour think that he's been trying to get with this young girl, and then it creates a whole issue. And then they stop at this this hotel that's on this island, and he's friendly with the hotel owner, and she's great. The actress that plays the hotel owner is really great, and they have to stop there because he like pulls out some like connectors in the tour bus's battery or something, and makes them have to stay there and like hold them basically hostage so that the women don't like get this message out to people, to get him in trouble. And so they get stuck there, and it becomes a whole thing. And then there's other characters. I don't want to say the whole story, but
yeah, you're going through the whole plot.
I know. I'm sorry, but it's a great.
I just have a few things to say about it, just for our listeners.
It's a great film. It's a great film. It's got great. It's
It's directed by John. It's directed by John Huston. It's based on a Tennessee Williams play, so you know that dialogue is going to be really good.
And it's got that one location thing about it.
And honestly, the fact that you're saying a running through line through a lot of Tennessee Williams plays is the undercurrent of homosexuality. Some of it's repressed homosexuality. Something like Cat in a Hot Tin Roof with Paul Newman and Elizabeth Taylor. That undercurrent is throughout a lot of Tennessee Williams plays, so that makes a lot of sense. This movie does star, like I said, Richard Burton, Ava Gardner, Deborah Carr, and Sue Lyon. Sue Lyon was, I believe, the young girl in Lolita of 1962, the Stanley Kubrick film. She played Lolita. So I've known of this movie for years. I'm glad that it's getting a Blu-ray release. I really love Tennessee Williams. Probably one of my favorite playwrights. But yeah, Night of the Iguana. And then Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, complete opposite movie.
Nah, come on now. Pretty close.
So Attack of the 50-Foot Woman is... man, it's kind of a cult film from 1958. It's kind of a drive-in movie for that time. The movie's like 65 minutes long. It's just... It's like an atomic age sci-fi type of film. So a woman... it says... I'll just read the IMDb synopsis for time here. When an abused socialite grows to giant size because of an alien encounter and an aborted murder attempt, she goes after her cheating husband with revenge on her mind. That's the movie. This woman grows to 50 feet high, and she's just kind of trampling through town. Not much to say. Not much to say about it. I see this poster on a lot of people's like walls and stuff for like YouTube videos and whatnot. It's a cool poster. There's this giant woman, like I think she's holding a car in one hand, and there's people running around under her. It's a movie that obviously has steeped in metaphor about men doing terrible things to women, and misogyny and unfaithfulness and all that kind of stuff. But
I haven't not seen the movie just the way you're describing it. It kind of has that King Kong, but from a different point of view.
The idea is that someone, growing to that height and whatnot. But it's definitely a cult movie. So that's kind of cool. It's getting a Blu-ray release. I don't think it's had a Blu-ray release at any point before, but I could be wrong on that. But that's it for
Warner Archive.
But now we move on to our last slate, which I almost nearly forgot, and that is Arrow. Arrow coming in later in the week. A lot of these dropped later. Steven, what do we have from Arrow? Because this is their... What month is this?
This is their December releases, I believe.
Yes, their December to round out the year.
Yeah. So we have 5 different releases here. And so we have... in 4K and on Blu-ray, we have the Clive Owen film. Is it Croupier?
I think it's Croupier.
Yeah, the Croupier. And then we have the film Silent Running. That's also getting a 4K. We have.
We should mention it's a It's an upgrade from a release I think they just dropped like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. Yeah. Then we also have the film Death Street USA, and then we have The Leech, and then we have the collection of
Yes.
Grudge films, the
Ju-on.
original Grudge films, Ju-on, the
original
Grudge
Japanese.
collection. Yeah.
And this is what I think I think it's a 6-film set. Yeah,
Let's see, one,
yeah.
two, three,
Let's
four.
let's just dive into that set now.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, might as well since we're talking about it. This is a technically a 4K set, but not every movie is being released in 4K. Actually, only one of them is being released in
Yeah.
4K, so it's a little misleading.
So the first movie is getting a 4K release.
Well, you say that, Steven. It's technically the third film. This is when things get a little.
Are we saying because the movie there's prequels in this collection?
Well, those prequels, those actually came out before that movie came out, so they're
Okay.
not really. They are prequels, but they technically also came out beforehand.
Gotcha.
Because I believe Ju-on the Curse and Ju-on the Curse 2 came out in I think the year 2000, and I think Ju-on the Grudge, which a lot of people know of the most because it got remade here as just The Grudge.
Yeah.
That came out I think in 2002, and then you had the sequel of Ju-on the Grudge 2, and then you had 2 more films after that, Ju-on White Ghost and Ju-on Black Ghost, and I think there was actually another film after that that's not even in this set. So
Jesus.
you've got a lot going on here. So this is a 5-disc set, but there are 6 movies, right? Did I count that right? Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how to count.
Neither do I. So disc 1, Ju-on. Disc 1 has 2 movies. That's just a Blu-ray.
Yep, 6.
Disc 2 has 1 movie that's a 4. Disc 2 and 3 is both the 4K disc and I think the regular Blu-ray disc of Ju-on the Grudge. And then disc 4 is just the sequel to The Grudge, Ju-on the Grudge 2, are just on Blu-ray. And then disc 5 has the 2 movies, White Ghost and Black Ghost, just on Blu-ray. So, like I said, only 1 disc in this set is really the 4K, and that's of the most popular, well-known, and probably
And
well-liked movie, I guess.
it's a big collection. So as we've talked
Yeah.
about before, having multiple 4Ks is just kind of ridiculous. So you don't want to. It's
Could you
an
imagine
expensive
if every
thing.
disc in this was 4K?
Yeah, God, it would be ridiculous.
I think it would probably end up being less discs.
It wouldn't surprise
you
me
can
if
fit- you
eventually
can
you're
fit
going to get a
more-
single release of that one 4K.
Yeah, you can get more. You can fit more movies on a 4K disc than you can a Blu-ray. I can just say
Sure.
that. So this would probably be more like a 4-disc 4K set, my guess, or something like that. And it's but yeah, this is a big set for a lot of people who like these movies. I've only seen Ju-on the Grudge because I had the DVD. I think I still have it. It may be on the shelf, or I may have let a friend borrow it. Can't quite remember, but obviously this will be a massive upgrade from DVD to 4K for me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people. I know these movies have gotten Blu-ray collections before, like in certain point. Yeah, there's been a Ju-on collection, put out by Arrow actually. Actually, no, this is the one. Oh, because it's coming out on Blu-ray as well, I guess. No, this is the collection. What am I doing? My brain is fried. I'm trying to check to see if there was another. I thought there was another Ju-on collection.
Well, I mean, I know they've put
at
out the
one point.
Ringu collection.
That's what I'm getting it confused with. Ringu.
Yeah, I have
had
the
a collection
Ringu,
like
the
this.
Ringu collection, which is the Asian Ring films
Yes.
collection. Yeah,
Yes.
the originals.
But these haven't been released together before, I believe. At least not all together. But yeah, that's a big, massive set. That intrigues me a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm probably going to pick this up at some point. Definitely.
Yeah. What did you think of Croupier? I think that's how you pronounce it. We're probably butchering it, but it doesn't matter.
Croupier. I mean, that sounds about right.
Croupier.
I liked
Clive
it.
Owen film, 1998. Blonde Clive Owen at one point in the movie. Jarringly bleach blonde.
Yeah, it's a '90s movie, so it's you had to have that bleach blonde hair at some point. But it's yeah. I mean, it's one. I mean, I'm funny enough, Clive Owen's kind of an actor that went from being kind of an indie actor to then blowing up into the mainstream and then back to like almost obscurity. And I've always liked him. I've always thought he could be charming, but also do some serious roles. And he's in one of my favorite movies of all time, Children of Men.
Yes,
And
I
then
was just going to mention that.
Yeah, and which Arrow also put out a release of that. And
They
so
did.
yeah, I mean this is an interesting movie for this subject matter, because typically with a movie with this subject matter, it's a little flashier.
Yeah, it's a very understated film. It's a
Yeah.
very almost lower-key character study film. It's a little meta as well. So Clive Owen's character is an author who's taken a job at a casino as a croupier, who's, I guess, like a it's not a pit boss. It's not a it's kind of like a I don't know. I don't know much about casinos and stuff, Steven. Who's the dealer, right?
Well, he's the dealer.
at
Yeah, he's
tables.
the guy that
he's
deals
the
the
dealer at
cards. And,
tables.
yeah.
Like blackjack tables and stuff like that. Whatever. And he's just kind of he gets involved with a woman, and things get a little complicated after that, and then they're trying to pull off some type of heist, and it has a very almost like a neo-noir feel to it a little bit. It feels a little bit like Adaptation as well,
Yeah.
because there's a narration going on the whole time where he's like narrating a book in his head.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, this is one of, I think, Clive Owen's breakout roles from the 90s. And then after, he was a big thing to do in the 2000s, man.
Yeah.
Inside Man, Children of Men. Remember
Smoking-
Shoot 'em Up,
Smoking of
Sin
Aces?
City, Closer. Remember the movie Closer, the Mike Nichols film?
What was the one where he like had the baby?
Yeah, that's Shoot 'em Up.
Shoot 'em up. Yeah. That's
Is
a
that
little
Shoot 'em Up when he had the
underrated.
baby? I can't remember.
No, it's called Shoot 'em up. He was in
Okay, yeah.
Smoking Aces as well as
Yes, he was in the. Yeah, he was in. Ironically, he was in the remake of Killer Elite.
yeah.
Or it's not really. It's not really a remake. It just has the same. It just has the same.
The same title. Yeah.
Same title. But he, of course, was in King Arthur. He was in Derailed.
He did this one movie, a really small movie I really liked, I think it was called Them Are the Boys, or Those Are the Boys, or
Yes. I did. Yeah, the boys are back.
The Boys Are Back. That's it.
Yeah, from 2009.
Yeah, he plays like a single father who's like, his wife died, and he's got to take care of his kids alone, and like yeah.
Yeah, he's also done TV work with Hemingway and Gellhorn, the TV movie, which I think he got acclaimed for. The Nick, which was wasn't that the Steven Soderbergh?
That's a Soderbergh
show?
series. Yeah.
Yeah, that was on for, I think, 2 seasons. I think that lasted.
It's kind of
Yeah,
a culty
Yeah,
TV
he's
show.
an actor who comes in and out of just the public eye, really.
And he was rumored to be Bond for a long time too. I think he's a little past
yeah.
that now.
Great, solid actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's getting both a Blu-ray release as well as a 4K release. Mike Hodges is the director. He directed Get Carter with Michael Caine back in the day.
Yeah.
Which has a 4K release from the BFI that I still need to get.
Yep.
So yeah, did you get to see Silent Running? Because
No.
I saw Silent Running.
No.
Bruce Dern, directed by Douglas Trumbull, who did the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey, as well as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The movie is very slow. It's kind of a 1970s film about environmentalism. Bruce Dern plays this guy. It's like a dystopian future where I guess plant life hasn't become sustainable on Earth anymore. So they built like these space station habitats, biospheres or whatever, for plant life and animal life and whatnot. And Bruce Dern kind of runs one of them. And he becomes kind of so wrapped up and enamored with one where one day, whatever space organization that runs it is deciding that they're going to get rid of it. They're just going to like let them go into space, blow them up, and they're going to use the ships for other means back on Earth. Well, he decides he's going to throw a little mutiny and take one over by himself. So the movie is kind of just him floating through space, trying to sustain this biosphere and the complications that go behind it. But of course, the movie's kind of a metaphor for environmentalism and stuff that was going on in the 70s at the time. Definitely a slower film, similar to 2001, but without a lot of the theatrics that were in there. But yeah, I didn't know Bruce Dern was actually in this movie until I started watching it, and I'm always just a big fan of Bruce Dern.
Oh yeah.
So I dug it. This is obviously, like I said earlier, this is an upgrade from their Blu-ray from a few years ago. So
Yep.
yeah, I dug it. I dug
Awesome.
it. It's not for everyone. It's not going to be it's not a great sci-fi film, but it's in the same vein as like something, I don't know, like a Logan's Run or something like that
Yeah.
at the time. But yeah.
All right. Well,
I didn't get to
Street.
see that.
Yeah, Death Street / Nightmare at Noon. I haven't seen it either, but it's got a cool cover, and it looks like it's kind of like a horror shoot 'em up type of movie. Yeah, it says from the cult director Nico Mazurakis.
Mazurakis. I think this is a Greek film.
Oh, okay. Comes Nightmare at Noon, a hectic mashup of eco horror and shoot 'em up full of daring stunts and explosive action. So that's a great little log line there. I think maybe get you anybody interested. And then the last one here is The Leech, which is another. This is from the filmmaker that did Black Christmas, I believe.
Yes, it says from Black Christmas to Rare Exports, there's been a symbiotic relation between horror and the season of good cheer. That seems to be the running theme throughout the show is horror films set during Christmas time that are not Christmas movies, but they just use Christmas as a setting. Now writer-director Eric Penikoff, who continues the proud tradition with The Leech, a cautionary tale about the perils of opening your door to a stranger. That's another thing. Don't open your door to strangers, Stephen.
And I don't think it's the director of I don't know why I said that. It's not the director of Black Christmas. So
No, it just mentioned Black Christmas.
Yeah.
In the same vein of like, Christmas Evil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's
I
another one of those cautionary
like
tales.
holiday horror movies. There's been some decent ones in recent years that I've liked. So yeah, I mean I'm always interested in checking them out. I don't know that I blind buy this, but
I like how they sell it though. It says agonizingly intense and rib-ticklingly funny in equal measure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
The Leech serves as both a festive frightmare and a microcosm of the fault lines of contemporary America. Damn, that's a lot.
That sounds.
But yeah, that's it for Arrow. That is it for the magnanimous slate to end the month of September of 2022. My word.
God, I could say this right now. I'm tired. Even though
I'm exhausted.
But obviously there's more we could have covered, but we don't have time for it because this is 3 hours.
I don't even want to look just for fear of looking.
Yeah, there's so many things we could talk about, but
yeah, there's a couple of just one little tag I want to put here at the end as we wrap up. Our friend Scott Saslow did do some work on a couple of releases that we talked about this week. He did the booklet layout and design for Zero Grad. He did the booklet layout and design for Vortex. He did the booklet and layout design for The Leech, which we just talked about. Yeah.
Big week for Scott.
Yeah, big week. And then he also did something for Nightmare. Yeah, Nightmare at Noon. He did the booklet and layout design as well.
Calm down, Scott.
Yeah.
Leave some room for everybody else.
Yeah, he also did some work on a release we didn't get to talk about. So.
All right, well, I really got to pee.
It's for the movie No
I really got to pee.
Yeah, it's for the movie No Escape that's getting a German release.
I'm going to piss myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, too much information.
I shouldn't have had
TMI.
coffee. I should never coffee again with the
never
podcast.
Do it again. I'll warn you next time.
Yeah. But Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can also find me at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Instagram, Twitter, or even maybe at my Letterboxd. You can just follow me there and see what I'm watching and keep up there, and you'll know what I'm going to be able to say I've seen for the next show. But
a little kind of kills the tease.
Yeah, I know, kills the tease, but you can go there and follow me. And then you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.